Chapter 1. Luan Dimas. The streets were busy at night, with numerous pedestrians and noisy vehicles passing. There were workers coming home, children finishing school, elderly people buying groceries, and many passers-by, each with different objectives. A discreet black car with tinted windows drove quietly down the street. Inside the car, passed out in the central back seat, was a young man between 17 and 18 years of age. This young man was handsome with a delicate appearance, with short white hair and white eyebrows. Even his long lashes were white. Along with him, there were 4 men who acted suspiciously. Boom. Asterisk. Incredibly, the moment this young man woke up, he lashed out at the men beside him, punching one and elbowing the other in the nose. His attacks were fierce, even fiercer than a wild beast. Stop him. The man in the front passenger seat of the car screamed. I can't do it. He's too strong. A man who appeared to be in his 20s said regretfully, having already had his nose broken by the young man. The other next to him was already unconscious with just one punch from the young man with white hair. The fight the young man put up against them was all quite impressive. Who are you? Why are you all in my room? The young man lightly rubbed his eyes and frowned. Wait. A car. The white-haired young man became confused upon noticing his surroundings. He hadn't seen a car like this in hundreds of years. And now, he found himself inside one. Damn, how can he be so strong? This is not what was reported to us before. A bearded man in the passenger front seat swore and pulled a pistol from his waist. Huh. Seeing the gun in the man's hand, the young man with the white hair frowned again, but something entirely surprising happened. Instead of pointing the gun at the white-haired young man, the man aimed at the driver who was driving too fast and fired. Bam. Asterisk. Z. Asterisk. The car began to skid, and the strong smells of burning tires and blood were present. Damn it. Zig. How dare you kill Ricardo? The strong man in the back passenger seat seized the man with the gun with both hands and squeezed tightly while the car continued to spin like a top. Let me go, motherfucker. The man with the gun gasped while choking. He tried to stabilize the car. However, the man behind him did not loosen his grip. Worse, he tightened it even more. It didn't take long for the man to shoot behind him twice and kill the man who was strangling him. Bam. Bam. Asterisk. Boom. Asterisk. Before the man could take control of the steering wheel, the car crashed head-on into a lamppost. Gray smoke came out of the hood of the totaled car. People quickly drove away from the accident in fear. Luckily, no one was seriously injured but the occupants, although in the process several cars ended up crashing. After hitting his head against the car window, the armed man looked back for the white-haired young man. However, he was already gone. Damn, where did that shit go? The man shouted in frustration. He just killed 2 of his brothers all to have the young man they had spent so much work to capture escape. He still couldn't process what happened just before. He felt that his body was being controlled, and because of that he ended up killing his comrades. How am I going to explain this to the boss? Although he was afraid of being arrested, he was even more afraid of his boss. He saw that many people started to crowd around the car, and without thinking twice, shot upward through the roof of the car. Bam. Asterisk. Ah. Pedestrians screamed in fright and ran as far away as possible. No one was bold enough to be around an armed man. After getting out of the car, the man ran as fast as he could, holding his gun as blood ran down his head. However, he didn't have time to care about that. After fleeing to a distant place, entering the alleys of the slum, the bearded man felt calmer and took out his cell phone with a shaking hand. He wanted to call his boss and tell him the mission failed. However, fear was visible on his face. He was not able to withstand his boss's fury. After taking a few deep breaths, he dialed his boss's number still shaking, fumbling the number several times on his cell phone. Boss, it's like this. Luan Dimas managed to escape. Asterisk. In a suite at the Dallas Hotel in Brazil, Santa Catarina. My love, thanks to your sister, we made 5 million reais, said a man. Is that true, Bernardo? But is it safe? Said a woman with a seductive voice. Monica. Bernardo, what is happening? On one hand, presently in the room there was a beautiful woman with long blonde hair and crescent moon-shaped eyebrows. Her eyes were a beautiful purple and she had skin as clear as snow, so beautiful that it would not be a lie to say that any man would do anything to win her heart. But the features that would catch one's attention the most were her long, beautiful legs and large breasts. On the other hand, here she was, draped on a bed, unable to move and barely able to remember how she got there. The last thing she remembered was that she was practically forced by her older sister, Monica, to go to a nightclub to have fun with her. However, after that she felt dizzy and didn't remember anything else. It was as if a part of her memory had been cut off and erased from her mind. Yes, my little angel, the film director, Raphael, has already deposited the money. Furthermore, after he sleeps with your sister, he's promised to help jumpstart your acting career. Bernardo's voice echoed into the room again, startling the woman on the bed, who could barely open her eyes. Don't worry. At the most she will lose her virginity to a rich guy. Although he is very ugly and skinny, he has a lot of money. Your sister is very lucky. Hey. What he didn't say was that Raphael was a director of porn films. Not that it made any difference, since Monica never liked her sister, and now having the chance to earn a lot of money with her, it was a bit of unexpected luck for her. The man showed his girlfriend his current balance on the bank's app. Available balance: 6,498,495 Brazilian reals, OO. Equivalent to $1,132,141.99. Wow, I've never seen so much money in one place. Hee hee. And to think that someone would be willing to pay all this to sleep with my cold bookworm of a little sister, said Monica happily, acting flirtatiously while kissing the man's face. Monica thought, with this money, I will have enough to start up my career. The drug you made Ingrid drink soon will take effect. Bernardo said seriously. We need to leave. Yes, let's go. Monica looked at her sister and said to her sarcastically, have a fun time, little sister. I hope you have a nice night. After all, it will be your first night with a man. Ha ha ha. Her sister's laughter continued to echo through Ingrid's mind. Why do I have to be so unlucky? Why did my own sister do this to me? These were the first thoughts that Ingrid had, but she soon dismissed them. She already knew about her sister's character, however, she never expected her to reach this point. Now it all makes sense, the way she practically forced me out today. How laughable it all is. I shouldn't have gone with her. Although she wanted to move, she couldn't. At most, she could only think. Gradually she regained the ability to open her eyes, however, it was difficult for her to control her body. In addition to this, a strong desire to masturbate began to fill her entire being. Is this how I am going to lose my virginity? She felt a strong urge to cry. I have preserved my virginity all this time, and I have never dated before, but in the end, I will end up losing my first time to an unknown man who offered money to my sister's boyfriend. Ingrid was shaken. If she could have moved, she would have thrown herself out the window even if she were to die in the process. She couldn't stand to live feeling dirty. She wanted to have her first time with someone she loved, but in her 18 years of life she never had even so much as a boyfriend since she wanted to finish her studies and get a good job. Then, and only then, she would think about finding a boyfriend and marry. Right after he left, Bernardo received a call that totally spoiled his humor. He was seething with anger, but he soon calmed down by thinking about the huge amount of money he had earned. There's no use regretting it now. Bernardo shook his head and continued walking with his woman towards the parking lot. Asterisk. Minutes after Monica and Bernardo left the suite, a mischievous little girl passed down the hall holding some sort of remote control. She pointed to several doors to the hotel suites and changed the number of the suites while giggling. It was not the first time that she had done this. Even though afterwards each time she was punished and promised not to do it anymore, she couldn't resist doing her antics. In addition, whenever she misbehaved she managed to spend more time with her father, which made her very happy despite being scolded. Ho, ho, ho. Dad is going to scold me again. Humph. It's his fault for not paying attention to Linlin. The little girl, Linlin, chortled and continued to change the suite numbers. Chapter 2. An unknown woman in my suite. After the man named Zig got out of the car, the young man he thought had escaped appeared suddenly in the same place from where he had vanished. In fact, he never left the vehicle this entire time. He had used a secret ability to hide his presence. I don't know what went wrong with that technique, but it made me go back in time. Still, I don't have time to think about it now. Besides, just using this concealment skill and fighting a little has already worn me out to the extreme. The white-haired young man sighed. It had been a long time since he had felt so weak. He calmly searched the car and soon found his wallet, along with his papers, cards, and his cell phone. After retrieving his items, he got out of the vehicle. Before anyone even noticed him, the young man had already walked through the curious crowd and strode away. I still remember this day. It was the day I was kidnapped and my mother was blackmailed, and we lost almost all of her fortune. The young man took a few deep breaths and continued walking to the nearest hotel. He knew that he demanded a lot from his current body, and if he didn't find a calm place to cultivate, it could adversely affect his presently weak body even more. Although in his past life, he lived for 1,000 years and knew hundreds of thousands of techniques and skills, it was all useless if he could not use any of them. When he had attacked and mind-controlled the bandits, he had already demanded a lot from his body. But it came as no surprise, now he was just a normal young man. It's here. After walking for a few minutes, he finally found a hotel. It was a beautiful building with blue mirroring. On the front was a large sign with the name Hotel Dallas. Although it looked expensive, he did not even blink when entering, since his pocket money was a few thousand rias. Welcome. A beautiful blonde receptionist with an appealing body said, smiling. He looked at her and nodded, casually saying, "Get me the best suite available." The beautiful receptionist was surprised, but very quickly she smiled again and said, "The best suite available is on the 10th floor and the value is 1,000 Brazilian reals a day." "Okay. I will only be staying for the night." The white-haired young man handed her his identity card and an American Express Platinum credit card. "I'll be using this card." "Okay. Just a moment please, sir." The beautiful receptionist said with an even more beautiful smile and began to type on the computer keyboard, recording the data on the young man's identity. "Please enter your password, Mr. Luan Dimas," the receptionist requested. She blinked her beautiful green eyes and noticed that he was still indifferent towards her. "Ready." After entering the password, Luan responded. "Thank you, Mr. Luan Dimas. Your suite is on the 10th floor, number 915. Handing over his ID and credit card, the receptionist next handed him the room key. She added, "If you need any room service, sir, you may call reception, and we will do our best to serve you." Luan nodded and turned. After walking to the elevator, he pressed the button to go upstairs. After Luan turned and left, the beautiful blonde receptionist bit her lower lip and sighed. She noticed that Luan had not been touched by her beauty. If she could manage to attract the attention of a rich and handsome young man like him, as professional as she was, this did not stop the beautiful receptionist from dreaming. After climbing up to the 10th floor, Luan went to room 915. With the keycard, the door soon was unlocked and opened. Entering the suite, Luan was unmoved by the beautiful appearance of the suite's entry room. He was tired and wanted to meditate as soon as possible. Wasting no time, he went to the bedroom. Entering the room, Luan froze. On top of the bed, the glimpse of a beautiful woman could be seen. Her hair was blonde and soft, spreading out over the bed's pillow. She was wearing a one-piece celestial blue dress wrapped in beautiful curves, like smooth, elegant waves. After approaching, Luan Dimas smelled jasmine on the body of the beautiful lady lying on the bed. The woman appeared to be unconscious. Her eyes were tightly closed, but her body moved slightly on the bed and stirred from time to time. Her well-rounded ass formed captivating curvy lines. Luan Dimas walked over to her and tried to wake her up. Next, he noticed her pretty, flushed face, looking like she was drunk, but she didn't smell of alcohol. What is happening? Was she drugged and left here? Luan guessed correctly, but one thing he didn't understand was why she was in his suite. What most surprised him was that although she wore a poor quality dress, this woman's appearance was even more beautiful than many socialite women he remembered. Whether it was that beautifully sculpted face or the elegance and fascination of her being flushed, it was enough to make any man get lost. However, her dazzling level of beauty perplexed Luan. How did she end up in that state? Was she tricked by some guy and entered the wrong suite? However, Luan was not able to think about this for long, as the beautiful girl opened her radiant sapphire blue eyes, and looked at Luan with a slight blush. Without waiting for Luan to reflect further, she casually grabbed the collar of Luan Dimas' shirt and then, her soft, beautiful lips kissed him. Luan Dimas was very surprised, but he soon came back to himself and pushed the beautiful woman away. The astonished woman looked a little offended, as she stared at him with a lush and hot expression. And without warning, once again she pulled against Luan's collar and kissed him, but she couldn't quite find the target. The woman's kiss fell on Luan's face and then walked away. Luan Dimas was stimulated by that cold and smooth contact on his face and lips, to the point of feeling like he was burning everywhere. Seeing the clear expression of this beautiful and delicate girl, with a captivating appearance that anyone would like to appropriate, he thought, I cannot take advantage of this, she must have been drugged. I need to resolve this situation. What? Before Luan could do anything, he was pulled by the beautiful and delicate woman onto the bed and pushed down by her. She was in a riding position and kissed Luan's lips once more, but this time she was even more aggressively hungry. Chapter 3. Initial stage of the corporal foundation. It turns out that Luan had already used all of the chi strength he had in his body and physical strength and was unable to resist the woman, and even when he tried to use it again, he would need more than a few minutes to recover. Luan and the woman ended up having sex. Asterisk. When the morning light passed through the windows and entered the suite, Luan shook his head in a trance. He wanted to get up, but suddenly he felt something soft surrounding him. Luan immediately turned his head and looked down, and surely, there was the woman he had sex for the first time with last night. At that moment, an elegant and delicate arm hugged his waist. Under the blanket, a plump pair of breasts squeezed into his belly, the exquisite point of contact felt as soft as velvet. A pair of white, delicate thighs unreservedly curled around his lower body, revealing frankly her attractive ass line along with some traces of last night's indulgence. Matching perfectly with the rest of the deeply sleeping woman was her innocent and absolutely beautiful face, which made Luan sigh repeatedly. Among the many women he had met in his life, only the heavenly fairies in the world of cultivation could compete with her. Of course, this was because she was baptized with his pure yin and automatically entered the initial stage of the corporal foundation. Not only did her skin become more beautiful, but her body also became younger and healthier. If before she had a beauty of 80 points, now she had 95 points. The moment Luan looked at her thigh, he saw abruptly that, at the end of the bed, there was a red bloodstain on the sheet. Luan had already noticed this last night, but he did not regret it. It wasn't like he was the one who had drugged and forced this beautiful woman to sleep with him. And because he was weak at that moment after fighting those bandits and running to the hotel, he couldn't resist the woman's advances, and in the end, he didn't waste the chance and started dual cultivation with this woman. So beautiful and young, but still a virgin. This is rare, Luan thought. He knew it was not easy to find women these days over 17 who were still a virgin, even more so when she was as beautiful as this woman. Many things went through his mind. Luan quickly understood that he needed to take responsibility for what he did. He laid there, waiting for the woman to wake up, thinking about how to deal with this situation. Minutes later, the woman who slept with him was finally awake. She opened her eyes, confused. The woman lifted her head slightly and saw Luan Dimas looking at her with a calm expression. The man in front of her was quite unknown and extremely handsome, but also felt familiar to her. There was a strong smell on her body, which was the same smell coming from this man, but something else. Doing her best to reflect on what was happening, the disjointed scenes from last night came to mind. The woman quickly understood how it all happened. After she knew it was him with whom she was practically forced to lose her virginity, Luan was curious about what the reaction of this woman would be, screaming, beating and scolding him, calling the police, or even extortion. However, the woman's reaction was mysteriously quiet. She quickly fetched her clothes and got dressed. Then she looked at Luan with indifference and undisguised disgust when she said, "Happy? Was it worth paying that much to take my innocence?" "Wrong, sweet," Luan said and started to dress, not caring about the woman seeing him naked. Anyway, it wasn't like it was the first time she was seeing it. "Ah, wrong, sweet." The woman blushed a little but did not look away, looking at him without understanding. Chapter 4. Raphael's arrival. After finishing dressing in Armani jeans and a red polo shirt, Luan turned to the woman and said, "My name is Luan Dimas and I didn't do anything to harm you on purpose. Yesterday I rented this suite and found you in my room. Unfortunately, I didn't have the strength at that moment to resist, and the rest you already know." Unfortunately. She frowned, but she vaguely remembered that was not the name Bernardo said the day before. If she was not mistaken, the man who should have visited her last night was a man named Raphael. She then demanded, "Show me your identity, then. I want proof of who you are." "No problem." Luan nodded. He took out his wallet and handed his identity to her. It was hard to believe, but it seemed like he was telling the truth. She already suspected that he was someone else the moment she saw that Luan was too young, since whoever should be with her now could very well be considered an older man. At least a man in middle age, since she heard Bernardo say that Raphael was a film director. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, the woman started to laugh. Multiple tears streamed from her eyes. Did she go crazy? Luan frowned and asked, "Are you okay?" "Am I fine? How could I be? I never dated before and I've always been dedicated to my studies, but yesterday I was betrayed by my older sister and was drugged. I lost my virginity to a man I don't even know, and you ask me if I'm fine." She stared at Luan fiercely. You're right. I'm sorry. Luan admitted his mistake. He knew it was different for him being a man when he lost his virginity. He didn't care so much even though it was his first time. But for a woman it was totally different. Even if he was not to blame for what happened, it didn't change the fact that it was with him that she lost her virginity. No, I should apologize for taking my anger out on you. After all, it wasn't you who set me up. She was still upset by what happened. Her body was shaking from time to time, but at least she was conscious enough to understand that Luan wasn't the real problem. Ding. Dong. Asterisk. Before Luan could say anything, the doorbell rang. Can you wait a while? Luan asked gently, not wanting to be insensitive. Okay. You can go. She said and sat down on a nearby chair. Ingrid still needed to put her thoughts in place and determine what she was going to do next. Meanwhile, Luan opened the door to his suite and came across a thin man with a badly shaved beard and short, messy hair. The man was a little over 170 centimeters tall and looked at Luan with an angry scowl, but soon his expression became peculiar, thinking that he had already seen Luan somewhere, but didn't not know from where. Behind the man there were several other men, mostly young men in their 18 to 25th year of age. Although he didn't know precisely, Luan started to imagine what was happening here. Luan asked indifferently, who are you and why are you here? I'm Raphael, a director of adult films, and I believe that one of our actresses stayed in your room by mistake. Not knowing where he thought he had seen Luan from before, he spoke his words as thoughtfully as possible. Oh, so it's you. Luan looked at the man with undisguised anger. Know that the woman who you claim to be your actress is my girlfriend and has been deceived. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? This. Raphael and the men behind him were all shocked. Raphael thought, Bernardo, that bastard said she was single. Did he deceive me? Not wanting to give up, Raphael asked, who are you, and how will I know you are not lying to me? Luan blinked and as if lightning had flashed from his eyes. He caught Raphael by the collar and with superhuman force dragged him to the next wall. Even some men behind Raphael fell with an impact. Boom. Asterisk. Are you doubting me? I have already given you enough of a chance by not killing you here. Know that if something like this happens again, I won't give you a second chance. Luan said with a cold chuckle, and who am I? I'm Luan Dimas, remember that. The man, Raphael, was in severe pain throughout his body, with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth, but the moment he heard Luan's name, he turned white, as if he had seen a ghost. Luan Dimas. Are you the son of Madame Mara Dimas of the multi-billion-dollar corporation Dimas? Raphael asked, startled. Yes, that is me, Luan confirmed. He was also doing this to help the girl in his suite. Cough. No wonder. No wonder. Raphael now knew from where he recognized Luan. He was the heir of the Dimas Corporation, and it is not surprising that he did not seem the least bit worried about getting into trouble and was not even afraid to give his name. I should have noticed before. That white hair and eyebrows, and the red eyes. He's the young heir to the Dimas Corp. Raphael started to develop a cold sweat. Now, get your people and get out of here, before I change my mind. Luan dropped the man, making him fall flat on the floor, staring at him in astonishment. Yes, right away. Raphael did not dare contradict Luan. He appreciated that he let him go like this. He knew that with Luan's status, if Luan wanted, it would be easy to make him disappear forever from the face of the earth. Damn Bernardo, you'll pay for this humiliation. Raphael said in his mind and was having trouble getting up and said to his men, help me out of here. Yes. Although confused, they agreed and did not dare to provoke Luan. The Dallas hotel manager was scared, sweating a lot. From start to finish, he didn't say a word, and seeing how Raphael came out, he said, Mr. Dimas, I'm sorry for what happened. And don't worry about the destroyed wall, you will not be responsible for that. Also, if you need anything, just get in touch with us and I'll personally handle it. Okay. I'm going back to my suite, Luan said nonchalantly. As you wish. Have a nice day. The manager quickly said and left, sighing with relief. After that, Luan entered his suite and closed the door. Ingrid, who was sitting on the couch in the living room, said as soon as she saw Luan enter, thank you. She understood that Luan did this for her, even though he was under no obligation to help her. Although she was a little surprised to hear Luan's status, Ingrid was not terribly surprised, as she noticed that they were in a luxury suite and also heard of the Dimas Corporation. His identity was proof enough. Luan nodded and asked, I still don't know your name. Ingrid, My name is Ingrid Anjos, she answered. Luan sat on the couch next to her, and asked, Tell me, Ingrid, have you noticed anything different about yourself? Chapter 5. Ingrid's decision. Something different. Ingrid was intrigued. Then she noticed and nodded. Yes, in fact, I feel as if I have more strength than usual. I was even able to hear you talking from the other room. Since this has happened, Luan decided to explain. This happened because you had a bond with me last night. Ingrid couldn't help asking, how is this related to having sex with you? The moment we started having sex, I used a secret technique. Luan asked her, have you ever read cultivation books? Yes, I've read some books like that. So are you telling me that cultivation exists and you are a cultivator? She asked incredulously. Yes, exactly that. To be more precise, we are both cultivators now, although you are still in the initial stage. Well, if you want to walk the path of cultivation, it is your choice, Luan said while looking at her. This is all very sudden. I don't even know anything about it. How can I do something like that? Ingrid was confused. She barely recovered from losing her virginity to a stranger, and that same stranger was telling her that she was now a cultivator just like in the cultivation books she read. It was a little much for her to accept at once. You can take your time to think, since I'm willing to help you out a little if you decide to follow the path of cultivation, Luan said. I'm going to take a shower. Take this time to think. Okay. Ingrid nodded and sat down, a little stunned about this information. She started to think seriously about it. Seeing this, Luan left. Ingrid stayed there in the living room and even got up a few times and tried her new strength. She quickly noticed that she was at least 5 times stronger than before, even her senses had become more acute. Luan, who was in the bathroom taking a shower, also noticed many changes in his body. Although he was used to being an immortal, now he knew he was back to square one. In addition, despite having just entered the initial stage of the corporal foundation, he had done so by using the divine spiritual body technique. This gave him even greater strength than a normal cultivator in the initial stage of the corporal foundation. He knew that this was thanks to Ingrid's pure yin of virginity. Without this, it would have taken much longer and he would have needed many resources to reach that level with this technique. Because of that, he was willing to speak about cultivation and teach Ingrid a thing or two as a way of thanking her. Of course, it wasn't just that. He was also in a hurry, and if Ingrid was willing, it would be quicker for him to ascend in cultivation, since there are things that are better to do with two than to do alone. Another thing Luan found was that he also had a talent for cultivating negative yin energy, and it wasn't as difficult as he imagined it would be, so he was particularly happy now. While letting his mind run wild, Luan found himself thinking about the bad guys from yesterday who tried to kidnap him and sighed. Luckily, this time I didn't make my mother lose more than half of her fortune because of my kidnapping. He now had a new chance. Although, in his past life he had been immortal, he was happy to be able to go back in time and have this new chance. Moreover, he still had the knowledge of his past life and knew it was a matter of time before he managed to become an immortal once again. There are still 4 months until the third awakening happens. After the shower, Luan got dressed and went to the living room. There, he met again with Ingrid, who was looking at him seriously. I want to learn about cultivation, she said decidedly. Although she did not know what would happen after entering the world of cultivation, Ingrid knew that, at the least, she would be strong enough to protect herself from something like this and not let it happen a second time. Ingrid was also smart. She knew that the chances of her receiving a chance like this again were very low. And after testing her strength a little, she soon confirmed the existence of cultivation. At least she was sure that it was possible to be even stronger than the world weightlifters if she continued to grow stronger. Well, take a shower first, said Luan, and rest for today. We will stay in this hotel for 1 month. In those 30 days, I will teach you. As for how much you can learn, it will be up to you. In case we both become a couple, it will all depend on whether we get to like each other within 30 days. Luan thought. Right. She nodded, but soon encountered a problem. I have no clothes here and there is only one bed in the room. Her face heated up. There is another room in this suite. You can sleep there, said Luan. In addition, afterward, we can go shopping. I also need to buy clothes if we are going to stay here for 1 month. And there is a training room in this suite that we can use. Okay, we will do just as you planned, Ingrid agreed. She was not worried about him taking advantage of her, because she knew that with his status as heir to the Dimas Corporation it would be easy to get women even more beautiful than her. After Ingrid left in the direction of the bathroom, Luan took out his cell phone and called the reception, saying he would stay for another month and listed the times he would want to eat. Obviously, he was very well attended and his request was accepted with ease. In addition, he asked if they could get him some clothes. Usually, they did not do this type of service, but the manager had already warned that whenever Luan Dimas asked for something, if it was not impossible, they were to accept it and then notify him. Because of this, they were quick to pick up and pack some clothes for a young man and woman. Although Luan did not have Ingrid's measurements, he could easily remember what he had seen yesterday and spoke the approximate size of her proportions. Next, he called his mother. "Son, where are you? Don't you know how worried I am?" A female voice sounded very worried on the other end. "Mom, I'm fine," said Luan with an immense longing. "I am currently in a hotel. I will stay here for 1 month. After that, I will return home." "Son, why are you doing this to me? Is it because you don't want to go to college? If so, you don't have to do it now, but know that I only want the best for you. Besides, your sister started college. You two are the same age. It would be good for you two to be together." "Mom, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to go to college. I just have a few things to work out right now. As soon as I'm done, I'll be back and at that moment we can sit and talk," Luan told her this. "Okay, son, but call me if you need anything." His mother's voice became softer, but she was still concerned. After the two hung up, a few minutes later someone knocked on the door. It didn't take 20 minutes until they had brought a set of new clothes for them. "Sir, these are the clothes that Mr. Dimas requested. Besides that, this is the new key, with your room number. I don't know if the manager notified you, but the suite numbers on that floor had been changed. Because of that, it may be inconvenient, but we need to go back to the original numbers and this is the real key to your room," said a young woman respectfully, as she handed over the key with the number 916. "Thank you." Luan accepted the bag and the key from her hand. Then he took the key with the number 915 from his pocket and handed it to her. "Thank you, Mr. Dimas. If you don't have anything else to request, I'll be going now," she said. "Wait, yes. Do you need anything else?" She looked at him as she asked. "What's your name?" he asked. She realized that her badge was turned inside out. She straightened it and said with a professional smile, "My name is Samantha Ramos." "Okay, Samantha, I will remember you. When my stay is over, I will be sure to tip you," said Luan. "Thanks in advance." Samantha was happy to hear this, but still tried her best to act professionally. "Okay, I'm going back to my suite now," said Luan before turning and entering his suite. Chapter 6. Going shopping together. Luan went to the bedroom and dressed in a new pair of clothes, since he was uncomfortable wearing the same clothes he had yesterday. He then left some clothes for Ingrid on the table next to the bed. Seeing the red stain on the bed sheet and the messy bed, he rummaged through the cabinets and found a clean set of bedding to change it. After that, he went to the bathroom door that Ingrid was in and said, "There is a new set of clothes in the room. You can leave the clothes you were wearing in the laundry basket. In the meantime, I will be waiting in the living room." "Okay," Ingrid replied. She was a little embarrassed to be talking to an unknown man while still taking a shower. After showering, Ingrid took the towel to get out and found herself naked in front of a huge mirror. Looking at the marks on her own body, she was completely speechless at that moment. Countless handprints and bite marks were on her body. It looked like she had just survived a disaster. Memories of her violent actions and kisses echoed in her brain. Now that she looked at it, she was really very embarrassed. Her face was red all the way down to the neck. In fact, it didn't hurt that much. The marks looked scary, but it was most likely because of her own body. Her skin was very clear, so just a little pressure left a mark. Otherwise, it wouldn't have looked so scary either. Incidentally, I'm sure I wasn't this beautiful before. Did this happen because of cultivating? To say that she was not happy about it would be lying. All women would like to look better. This was true even for her who spent most of her time studying. Asterisk. Ingrid left the bathroom and went to the bedroom to change clothes. She was now wearing an outfit prepared by the hotel, which consisted of Calvin Klein jeans and a tight t-shirt with a light blue tank top also by Calvin Klein and a 5 cm burgundy clog. "Did you ask them to bring these clothes?" Ingrid asked. She had never worn such expensive and comfortable clothes before. After all, she was from a poor family, and the money she got she spent on books and used to pay for her studies. She was not like her sister who spent her money on clothes and bags. Of course, where Monica got all this money from was always doubtful, but Ingrid didn't care about that, and she never tried to find out. If she had asked Monica, her sister wouldn't answer, since the two never had a very close relationship. Just now I called and they brought it, Luan replied. Ingrid wasn't surprised at the end, since she knew he was the heir to the Dimas Corporation. She evaluated Luan once again and admitted to herself that he was the most beautiful and elegant man she had ever met. He was wearing a white polo shirt, jeans, and black sneakers. His short white hair with big white lashes and red eyes were enough to cause Ingrid's heart to skip a beat, and his full lips and symmetrical chin and nose were downright spectacular. Although he seemed indifferent, it gave her a sense of security seeing him act this way. Perhaps she felt safe because of what he did with the porn director Raphael, or even because she discovered that he was a cultivator. Whatever it was, she felt safe being with him. Are we going to leave now, or do you want to go later? Luan asked. Yes, let's go, but before that, can I use your cell phone? Ingrid asked, wanting to call her mother. Of course. He handed his cell phone to her. Minutes later, she returned and handed over his cell phone. It's done, thanks. Okay. Now are we going? Luan asked again. Yes, let's go. She nodded and the two left together. When they were about to leave, Ingrid became off balance because of her high heels, and almost fell. Luan acted quickly and grabbed her by the shoulder. Are you okay? Ingrid blushed a little, ashamed, and said, I'm fine, thanks. She thought, I almost never wear high heels. I'm not used to wearing them. Okay then. Luan released her shoulder once Ingrid regained her balance. Asterisk. Mr. Dimas is leaving. Do you need us to provide you with a car? The moment they reached the first floor, they were attended to by Samantha, who handed over the clothes and keys. Oh, can you do this for me? Luan intended to call a taxi, but if the hotel provided them transportation, it would be even better. It is our pleasure, the concierge answered with a smile and made a call. A few minutes later, a black Phantom Rolls-Royce pulled up in front of the hotel. Mr. Dimas, the black Rolls-Royce Phantom will be at your disposal and this is your driver. Samantha said as the driver approached. He was wearing a black business suit and driver's hat with white gloves. And you are? Luan looked at the man. Mr. Dimas, my name is Sebastian, I will be at your disposal today, said the man. Okay, Sebastian. We are going to the nearest mall, Luan stated. Yes, Mr. Dimas and Miss. Sebastian nodded and looked at Ingrid without knowing how to address her. Good morning. You can call me Ingrid. I'll be in your care. Ingrid greeted a little reservedly. She didn't know how to act at such times, but she tried to act as normal as possible. Hello, Miss Ingrid. Sebastian looked at her and said with a friendly smile. Seeing this, Luan smiled slightly, making Samantha blush from the sight. Luan rarely smiled around strangers, but he found Ingrid's way of behaving and talking funny enough to make him smile. After exiting the hotel, Sebastian opened the door of the black Phantom Rolls-Royce for Luan and Ingrid and then drove towards Floripa Shopping Center. 20 minutes later, they arrived. Mr. Dimas and Miss Ingrid, I will be waiting for you in the car, said Sebastian. Luan nodded and, along with Ingrid, walked towards the entrance to the mall. It was still 9 o'clock in the morning, and both Ingrid and Luan hadn't had breakfast. Luan proposed that they should eat first before looking at the clothes. Asterisk. MC Coffee. Reading the sign, Luan suggested, let's eat here. Right. Ingrid didn't disagree. Soon, Luan and Ingrid went into some clothing stores after eating. They bought many clothes to last them a month. Although she was embarrassed to enter a lingerie store with Luan, Ingrid still chose simpler and more comfortable pieces. While most clothing purchases were workout clothes, there were a few clothes they bought that would be used to go out. At first, Ingrid refused to accept that Luan bought her so many expensive clothes, but she was persuaded by him and ended up accepting them. Even though the two were strangers to each other, Luan and Ingrid had some mutual respect for one another. Furthermore, this could have even been considered a blind date, although the two were not doing it with the intention of being together. It was just Luan wanting to help her a little to return the indirect favor she had done for him. While walking, the two weren't showing any affection or even appearing to be very close. It was inevitable that they would draw people's attention and even cause their minds to run wild. Are they a couple? Maybe they fought. They are beautiful together. Yes, but I still think the man is a little too good for her. No, I think she's too good for him. Shut up. Ugly. What do you know? You are the ugly one here. If she is not good, then who are you? Ha ha ha. Some whispers of admiration came from the crowd. Logically speaking, it was not only due to their handsome clothes, the two of them also had a charming natural appearance. That alone drew people's attention, mixing the good looks of Luan and Ingrid, only making the two stand out even more. Although Ingrid blushed a little when she drew so much attention, Luan didn't care. He pretended he didn't even hear the people around them and continued to walk regardless. As soon as he was close to leaving, he didn't forget to call the driver. Chapter 7. Starting Cultivation. It was the afternoon of February 14, 2010. The sun was warm as Luan and Ingrid headed back to the hotel. There are only 4 months left and I need to prepare for the worst until then. This time, I will help my mother and sister. Luan thought determinedly. Arriving at the suite, there was something else that Luan needed to buy, but it wasn't something that he could easily find at any store. He once again had to call his mother. Son, do you need anything? Have you changed your mind and decided to come home? His mother's voice echoed when he answered. It's not about that, Mom. I need something that I can't buy myself, so I called you. Luan said respectfully. Oh, his mother was surprised by his way of speaking. Soon after, she smiled and asked, what would it be? If it is something that is within my reach, I promise to acquire it. It would be 1 red diamond of at least 1 carat and 10 white diamonds of 1 carat each. Luan said hurriedly, Mom, I know this can cost a lot, but I promise that soon I will get the money back. I understand if you can't do this now. His mother's voice sounded thoughtful. It's not that it's too expensive for me and it's not impossible for me to get it. But can you tell me what you need this for, Luan? First of all, it isn't something illegal. Second, it's complicated to explain this without being in person. If possible, I want to explain it better when we meet, but over the phone. Many things were easier to show than to speak about. Luan knew that even if he explained, it would still be difficult to convince his mother. Okay, I'm going to trust you. Give me your current address and I'll get someone to deliver these things for you tomorrow, said his mother. Thank you, Mom. I love you, Luan said happily. Humph. Only at such times as this do you say you love me. I'm hanging up now. Call me if you need anything, she said. Yes, bye Mom, Luan said and they hung up. Asterisk. The next morning, his mother proved to be quite influential and willing to help him as soon as possible. At his door, one of his mother's most trusted employees came to deliver the diamonds and soon went away. Luan took the diamonds and then went to the sweets gym and started preparing a matrix using his own blood to draw it meticulously. After finishing the design with his blood, Luan placed all 10 white diamonds around the matrix, forming a pentagram. He then placed the red diamond at the center. With that done, he needed Ingrid's help to stand on the opposite side of the matrix and recite a mantra with him to activate the matrix. Ingrid was a highly intelligent woman and because of that she was able to memorize the entire mantra in a very short time. When they started to recite the mantra, countless lights appeared. She was particularly delighted with what was going on, but she was wise enough not to break her concentration. When the gym room was completely surrounded and isolated by the matrix, the multicolored lights started to disappear as if they had never existed. Only then did Luan sigh with relief. Ingrid was a little weaker and fell on her butt on the floor, panting. She had used too much of her chi and was very worn out. Luan had to admit that it was the right choice to tell her about cultivation and let her stay to train with him. Without her, it would have been difficult for him to be able to activate this matrix. Now it would be much quicker for him and Ingrid to absorb both yin and yang chi from heaven and earth. According to Luan's calculations, this matrix would last for a maximum of 30 days and their cultivation speed would increase by 10x or even more. It still needed to be tested, but either way, it was already very good for the few resources he had. Sit on the floor. I will recite to you a body technique for your cultivation, Luan told her. Okay. Ingrid nodded and sat on the floor in the lotus position since she thought it was the right way to do it. You don't need to sit like that, Luan said. Whatever, it can be that way too. Pay close attention to what I'm going to recite. It is not difficult to memorize, but you should not miss a word. Do you understand? Yes. Ingrid nodded seriously. The technique's name is Queen Cobra's Body. After saying the name of the technique, Luan started to recite the technique. The words came out of Luan's mouth as a mantra. They were difficult words, but not impossible to memorize, and after being raised by the cultivation, her memory had become superior to what it was before. It took almost 20 minutes for Luan to recite the mantra twice. Ingrid managed to remember the first time, but Luan recited it the second time to make sure she didn't miss a word. What do you think, Ingrid? Luan asked. Did you manage to memorize everything? Yes, I am confident that I have memorized every word. Ingrid nodded. Okay, now I'm going to teach you the movements that are used before meditating. Luan explained. These movements are necessary to be able to strengthen the body. Seeing that Ingrid stood up and looked at him seriously, Luan said, pay attention and try to copy the movements that I will show. Yes. Ingrid looked at him with determination. There were a total of 36 movements. They were all difficult and tiring, but as Ingrid was no longer an ordinary human, she managed to last and continued to imitate the movements shown by Luan. Okay. You're better than I imagined. Keep repeating these movements in sequence, no matter how long it takes. The longer you put up with it, the better the effect will be, Luan said. I will do my best. Determination flashed in Ingrid's eyes while she did the training. Luan nodded with satisfaction and engaged in making the movements of his technique. Unlike Ingrid's technique, the technique, divine spiritual body, consisted of 48 movements, and they were even more difficult. Whoosh. Asterisk. At the beginning, Luan moved slowly, but each time he repeated the movements, the speed increased, reaching a point where the sound of the air being torn by his movements echoed throughout the room. Ingrid saw this and was surprised as she started to understand that it was good to increase the speed, but she wasn't sure if it was the right time for her to do this since Luan didn't say anything to her. Undecided, she chose to continue at the same pace. Even if she was going to increase the speed a little, it wouldn't be as surprising as what Luan was doing. When an hour and a half passed, Luan was already dripping sweat, his body heated up to the point of vapor rising up from it. This is my limit at the moment. Although dissatisfied, he knew he was back at the beginning. He couldn't demand too much from himself and end up getting hurt. Luan sat on the floor with his legs crossed, and in his mind he started to recite the mantra of his body. Technique. On the other hand, Ingrid, who was not making her movements very fast, was not yet tired although she has sweated a lot. She just looked at Luan a little while training, but soon focused on completing her moves. Ingrid held on for almost 3 hours. She sat down and started to perform the mantra of the technique and absorbed the chi from heaven and earth, filling her body in the places she'd just trained. Ingrid could feel every cell in her body being filled and strengthened. It was a fantastic sensation, albeit a little painful at times. It was also at that moment that a flash of light emitted from Luan's body, creating a small pillar of golden light. I moved on to corporal foundation, middle stage. Although happy with this, Luan knew it still wasn't enough. In the beginning, it was always easier to achieve a breakthrough, especially using the matrix. It looks like something big just happened. Although she had her eyes closed, Ingrid guessed that Luan was different. Ingrid may have spent more time using body movements and some may even think that she would have a faster progression. However, this thought would be illogical since although Luan stayed only an hour and a half, he was doing it several times faster than her, performing even more than she was capable, almost perfectly. Furthermore, although not much, the body technique with which Luan cultivated was superior to the one that Ingrid was using. Chapter 8. Negative White Dragon Transformation. Luan finds himself drenched in sweat and impurity. The bad odor was unbearable. He then got up from the lotus position and walked towards the bathroom, leaving Ingrid to cultivate alone. When Luan returned, he was wearing a simple white short-sleeved shirt, gray shorts and a white sandal. Seeing that Ingrid continued to meditate diligently, he did not want to disturb and went to the room to write and plan what he would do in the future. 4 months from now, the smaller worlds will return and the world of towers will appear. I need to be able to monopolize at least one. The towers worldwide that are going to happen in 4 months would make several humans and non-humans fight. Owning a world of towers is tantamount to being the head of a small country. World of Towers is what gives unimaginable powers to living beings that pass a test through it. It was in the World of Towers that Luan achieved several techniques and items in his past life. Although he didn't bring any items with him, Luan still had the knowledge clearly in his mind, which was of great benefit to him. When the smaller worlds appear, those arrogant beings will once again try to take over the world. Last time I was tricked by one of these people, that damn witch, and ended up cultivating a technique that made me sexually impotent. Remembering that makes his body tremble. That was one of his biggest regrets. Even when he fell in love with someone, he was destined to suffer. Even though sex isn't everything, it wasn't something he could exclude in a relationship. That was the kind of memory that Luan didn't like to remember. He shook his head and went back to thinking about the best options for him to follow before the third awakening happened. If I want to help my mother and sister, I need to enter the Chi realm manifestation. Unlike the body path he is currently following, the path of Chi energy is different, and for him to start cultivating Chi energy, he must have a strengthened body, at least 20 times stronger than an ordinary human. Currently, I am already 18 times stronger than a normal human being, just a little while longer and I'll be able to cultivate a Chi energy technique. The big question now is, what technique should I use? Of all the techniques he could remember, the most compatible ones he found was two techniques: negative white dragon transformation and heart of the ice emperor. What the two techniques have in common was that I used negative energy, which was according to the benefits that my body has, and they can be complete without fail, which wouldn't leave me impotent. But between those two, what else intrigues me is the white dragon transformation. This technique I achieved with great sacrifice by killing a wounded white dragon of the 6th order who was injured. In the world qualification, there were 7 known orders. The undead white dragon was in the 6th order when Luan met him. He was only capable of defeating the beast due to the dragon's wound. Luan did not know where this undead white dragon was injured, but he didn't miss this chance, since by killing this undead white dragon, he could obtain abundant items that the body of this dragon would cost. Of course, Luan did not expect that on the bones of the dead white dragon inside the body there was the negative white dragon transformation technique written. If I'm going to use this technique, I need to be at least 30 times stronger than an ordinary man. It may take me longer, but I think it's worth the effort. 18 times stronger than an ordinary man is almost someone in the 2nd order. To reach the 2nd order it is necessary to have at least the strength of 20, instead. Asterisk. Santa Catarina. Juror Internacional. Dimas Mansion. Mom, could you talk to Luan? A 175 centimeters tall young woman with long white hair asked. Catherine. Seeing her daughter, Mara replied. Yes, I spoke to him. How is it? Is he coming home? Drying her straight, silvery white hair with the hairdryer, she asks. Yes, but he said he'll be back only after a month. Mara said while making dinner. 1 month. What is my brother up to this time? Katerina sighed. I don't know either, but he seemed different. Mara said thoughtfully. She found Luan's behavior when talking on the phone a little strange, although not much, he didn't look exactly the same. Changed. Did he finally get over his unrequited love? Katerina said. Hope so. Mara wished it were that. 10 of his 16 years, Luan was in love with Carol. She was beautiful, cute and was always kind to Luan. However, when he declared himself to her at 17, he was rejected. Because of that, he was deeply hurt. He's a fool, said Katerina. She only looks like a saint, but she is more like a saint with a hollow stick. Sigh tilde. I hope he gets over it soon. Mara said with regret. Asterisk. It was late. Almost 8 p.m. Ingrid stopped meditating just now. Her snow-white skin was shaded with red as she sweated deeply. Her dark blue and white gym clothes were soaked with a gooey black substance. This stinks. Ingrid held her breath as soon as she stopped meditating. Before, with her senses focused on meditation, she didn't feel that bad odor, but as soon as she stopped meditating, the smell of the impurity that left her body came. I need to take an urgent shower. Ingrid got up and shouted. Luan. I'm in the room. He replied. Ah yes, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to use the bathroom to bathe. Somehow, this situation was strange, but it wasn't unpleasant. For Ingrid, who never depended on others to achieve what she wanted, it was the first time that she had depended so much on someone other than her mother. Okay. I already prepared a clean towel in the bathroom, feel free to use it. Luan replied. After hearing this, Ingrid felt grateful, and before she left, she thought about cleaning the gym floor. However, something incredible happened, as soon as she got up and distanced herself. The impurity that was on the ground before, started to disappear. Like magic. Is this due to the formation that Luan created? Ingrid murmured, impressed. Seeing that she no longer needed to clean, she headed for the bathroom. Chapter 9. He has such a sexy body. It was 9 p.m. when room service brought their dinner. Luan and Ingrid ate while chatting and laughing. They feel a little closer because of that. Your strength seems to have increased. Luan said. Yes, I feel like my strength almost doubled. Ingrid said, embarrassed. When I went to the bathroom, I ended up breaking the wall tread a little. It's okay. This is common, as this is very new to you. Luan said nonchalantly. Don't worry about it, it won't cost me much to pay for the repair. I'm sorry to be causing so many problems. Even hearing and seeing that he didn't care, Ingrid still felt guilty and ashamed of her actions. Relax, I don't care about that. said Luan. You may not understand, but by helping me create the matrix at the gym room, it saved me a lot of time and money. For that I am grateful to you, for not having to think that you are indebted to me. I do this because I have also benefited from having you by my side. Quote. I'm glad to hear this. Ingrid placed her right hand on her chest and let out a sigh of relief. She did not like to cause problems, even for her mother. Ingrid always avoided bringing problems. It could say that being in this suite with a man she just met and having sex with was the most daring thing she'd ever done in her life. Sometimes she found herself wondering how she managed to muster up the courage to accept this. But, on the other hand, she doesn't regret her decision. I realize that you have become more beautiful, Luan said matter-of-factly. Thanks. Ingrid smiled modestly, her face brimming with youth and brightness. There were reflections of light on her cheeks, which made her silky smooth skin glow. She was an exceptional beauty now. Ingrid knew that only with her current appearance, she could become famous, but that was not what she wanted. She always dreamed of starting her own company and managing with her future husband. Looking at Luan, she thought that although he was kind to her, they were still far from being able to be together. She was a normal girl until a few days ago, and although she knew she was a great beauty now, she could imagine that if Luan wanted to, he could teach any other woman about cultivation, just as he taught her. While Luan, he was heir to the Dimas companies, a multi-billion-dollar brand. However, she didn't want to think about it too much now. She wanted first to focus on what Luan was teaching her. After eating and doing the hygienic needs, Luan said, "It is getting late. It is good to sleep early and wake up early to train." Yes. Ingrid agreed with him. She said goodbye to him, and they went into separate rooms. Asterisk. At 7 in the morning, Ingrid woke up wanting to go to the bathroom. Sleepy, she got out of bed and went to the bathroom, took off her pants, and sat on the toilet. After she was done, she rolled her eyes and had just pulled on half of her pants when she noticed the silhouette of a man. Luan wiped his wet hair and saw the sleepy girl sitting on the toilet. He just can't help but notice this girl's thighs and ass, as well as her snow-white skin. Luan was wearing only a towel on the bottom, while the top was completely exposed. Ingrid saw Luan's well-defined, shapely body and swallowed. Ingrid blinked and groaned inside. Is there a way for her to die a little faster? Ingrid got up and pulled on her pants quickly and left the bathroom. She felt her face heat up and the shame she felt made her heart race. She admits that the first time Luan saw her naked after they had sex, she didn't feel as much shame as she did now. However, that was because she was very angry and disgusted with herself, but after everything that happened and the misunderstanding was cleared up, she went back to being the shy girl she was before. He won't think I went into the bathroom with him inside on purpose, will? She wondered. Luan went out and saw her in the hall, and before she could speak, he said, "I'm sorry, I forgot to lock the door." This, Ingrid said hurriedly. "No, it was my fault too. I should have knocked on the door before I entered. Anyway, feel free to use the bathroom. I prefer to bathe in this bathroom, but the rest I will do in the bathroom in my room." Luan left as soon as he said. Ingrid took a deep breath and calmed down when she saw Luan's silhouette disappear. She did exactly what he said, went to her room and got a new set of clothes. With a towel in her hand, she went to take a shower and try to forget what happened. He has such a sexy body. She shook her head trying to forget what she saw. Asterisk. After breakfast delivered by the reception, Luan and Ingrid went to the suite's gym and started training. Just like yesterday, they first trained the movements. Luan did a series of movements at high speed. He was even faster and more precise than the day before. He moved gracefully with precision. Each movement he made showed his perfect muscle. When tired, he started to meditate. Ingrid almost made all her movements in perfect harmony. It even looked like a work of art. She could even feel the power overflowing in every cell of her body as she completed each movement. Over time, she felt her muscles getting tired. Her breathing became irregular. She looked in Luan's direction and realized that he had already started meditating. "I've reached my limit." Ingrid didn't try to force herself anymore and get hurt. She knew she should try hard, but she shouldn't overdo it. Sitting with her legs crossed, Ingrid started to perform her body technique. She can feel every part of her body sucks the surrounding energy through her body pores. If she had to describe how she imagined her current situation, it was as if a 2 centimeters blue aura around her body sucked the energy around her and pulled her into her body through her pores. Just as metal is attracted to the magnet. Chapter 10. Carol. February 20, 2010. It had been a week since Luan and Ingrid met and started living together in a hotel suite. Every day both Luan and Ingrid stayed in the hotel suite training. This also brought the two together. Now they knew each other a little more. Since they shared lunch and dinner together every day, they even knew each other's favorite food. We need to buy new clothes, Luan said. Although the clothes we bought before are good quality for the training we were going through, these clothes ended up wearing out too quickly. Ingrid didn't want to admit it, but it was true. The clothes she got from him to train with were now almost all threatening to tear. She at least considered herself a friend of his, so she wasn't so shy about going with him to get new clothes for training. Shall we leave now? Ingrid asked. Yes, I already called the reception, and they are going to get a car. We can go to the mall to buy new clothes, Luan replied. After that, the two went to change clothes to go out. Luan was dressed in a red polo collar shirt, black slacks, and black sneakers. His white hair was a little rebellious on the right side. Ingrid wore a navy blue dress that went to her knees and matched with a black high heel, making her look taller than normal. She had a lean frame, and the dress she wore made her look slimmer and more beautiful. Her blonde hair was casually combed back in wavy cascades down the middle of her back. Ingrid felt awkward about wearing high heels. She just couldn't get used to it and was afraid to fumble and fall. Seeing Ingrid leave her room, Luan said, "You look beautiful." "Thanks." She smiled sheepishly. "You look very handsome." Luan smiled in response and said, "Shall we go?" Ingrid closed her eyes and quietly let out a sigh. She then let out a smile and the worry in her eyes disappeared. Luan took the card from the suite door and left with Ingrid. Down the elevator, they reached the first floor. Sebastian. Once there, Luan and Ingrid saw the same driver who took them to the mall last time. "Good morning, Sir Dimas and Miss Ingrid." Sebastian greeted them with a friendly smile. "Good morning." The two greeted him back. "Shall we go?" Sebastian asked. Understanding that it was Sebastian who would be driving for them again, Luan nodded. "Yes, let's go." Inside the car, Sebastian asked, "Do you want to go to the same mall?" "Yes," Luan agreed. Ingrid was very quiet. She came to think she never felt like getting dressed as much as she did today. She even wanted to wear high heels. Looking at the man beside her, she felt her face heat up. "Is everything all right?" Luan saw her staring at him and asked softly. It's nothing." Ingrid turned her face away and stared out of the car window. Even seeing what was going on outside, her mind was busy with other thoughts. It was inevitable. They slept in the same suite, had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together, even trained together. Most of the time they were together. The only moment that was not true was when they were sleeping. "I think I wouldn't mind." Ingrid was embarrassed by her own thought, letting her head hit the window glass as she sighed. Ingrid stopped what she was thinking about. She would let nature take its course. Asterisk. Luan had the driver Sebastian's cell phone number. He told the driver he didn't have to wait for them in the parking lot and that Luan would call a couple minutes before he needed to pick them up. At the entrance to the mall it was quite busy. Ingrid and Luan drew a lot of attention as they entered. "So beautiful. Are they models?" The onlookers looked from side to side, thinking they were being filmed. Some even took pictures of the couple and saved them as wallpapers. What impressed them most was that even after taking a photo and zooming in, it didn't look like Ingrid was wearing makeup. Her skin was even smoother and filled with more vitality than a baby's. It was understood that they were both very beautiful, even more beautiful than the last time. This was, of course, all thanks to their cultivation. Going up the escalator, Luan and Ingrid arrived on the second floor. The two walked side by side while looking at the stores together. Upon leaving a clothing store, Luan ran into someone unexpected. "Carol," Luan said while looking at a young 18-year-old woman. Carol had light brown hair and green eyes. Her breasts were large, yet she was thin with meat in the right places. "Luan." Carol was startled. She was arm in arm with a man in his early 20s. Quickly, she moved away from the man. The man looked at her strangely. What's going on? He thought. He had met Carol over the internet a little over a month ago, and they started dating. He had even promised her that he would help with the 5,000 rias that were required for the surgery her mother needed. Luan still remembered that in his past life, he was in love with this girl. Even after his kidnapping, he ended up staying with her. However, even though it looked like she was a virgin and said that they would only have sex after the wedding, he discovered moments after their engagement she had undergone a hymenoplasty, also known as hymen reconstruction. What most affected him in his past life were the photos sent of Carol entering and leaving a motel with Wagner. This made Luan break up with her, and Carol then ended up marrying Wagner. Wagner Hamibo was heir to the Hamibo Company, which was also a rival to his mother. Because of that, Wagner Hamibo always wanted what was Luan's. That's what had made him want to be with Carol Helena, who was the girl he liked. This can't be happening. Carol looked at Luan and then at the man next to her and blinked, pleading in her mind for the man to understand. Daniel, my cousin, you can choose the movie, I'll talk to my friend and then I'll join you. Daniel was very angry upon hearing that, causing him to almost unmask Carol on the spot. But not knowing exactly what was going on and not wanting to ruin the relationship he had with her, since she was very hot in bed, he did as she asked. Yes, I will be waiting for you, cousin. He made a point of emphasizing, cousin. When Daniel left, Carol sighed inwardly. She thought he would ruin everything. But thankfully, the guy she was dating was smart enough and went along with her cousin act. Ingrid, who stood aside watching all this develop, frowned. She thought, he's not dating this girl, is he? Furthermore, there was clearly a sexual tension between this Carol and Daniel. Luan, what are you doing here in Florianopolis? That was what she most wanted to know. She chose a guy who lived far from Juror Internacional, precisely to prevent Luan from finding out. Although she rejected him before, she just said she was focused on studying and asked him to wait, while in reality she had other intentions. Chapter 11. She's fooling him. He had no intention of talking about the kidnapping that brought him here. Moreover, although he had actually liked her before, he now felt nothing for her. All he felt for her was disgust and disdain. Because I wanted to, Luan said dryly. Carol felt strange when she heard him talking to her like that. What's more, she noticed that he was a little different. He was much more handsome, having good skin unlike other men who had a rough face. His features had a unique charm, seeming to have the elegance of a mature man. He exuded an aura of masculinity with his long white lashes, pointed nose, and thin lips. Carol looked at the floor and bit her lip. But when she thought that Luan must have been jealous of Daniel, she tried to explain herself. Luan, this just now it's not what you were thinking. Daniel is just my cousin, and I am in Florianopolis visiting my aunt's house, who by the way is Daniel's mother, and it happened that we came together to see a movie that I was interested in watching. Carol thanked herself for her quick reasoning to make up a story and justify being here with Daniel. Okay. Luan's lips arched in a ridiculous smile, but one that was misinterpreted by Carol. Phew tilde. Carol let out a soft sigh inside and looked Luan up and down. Her eyes became greedy when she saw that he had become more handsome and charming. He loves me. It's just a matter of time. If I use my bed technique, he will be mine. Let's go. Luan ignored Carol's existence when he looked back at Ingrid. Seeing that Ingrid was not moving, he took her hand in order to leave that place. Luan. Carol was once again surprised. She had already noticed Ingrid's presence before, but Carol had treated her like empty air. She had thought that Ingrid was just a parasite that was glued to Luan. Carol had not been worried because she knew that Luan was in love with herself, but seeing him hold another woman's hand in front of her, and wanting to leave her behind, it left her baffled and furious. And seeing that the girl Luan left with hand in hand was even more beautiful than she herself was, with delicate features that had no need for any makeup, beautiful blonde hair, a body with no sign of fat, and meat in all the right places, she was indeed irritated. She's fooling him. She must have undergone a lot of plastic surgery and all of it silicone. Also, she must be wearing a lot of expensive makeup and a wig, it can only be that. Carol wanted to run after them and unmask the home wrecker, but she ended up losing sight of them. Refusing to give up her search, she walked around like crazy trying to find Luan. Asterisk. Luan and Ingrid were inside the elevator that went up to the third floor. Ingrid felt nervous because she was still holding hands with Luan, yet something inside her didn't want him to take his hand away. But remembering the girl just now, she couldn't help asking, who was she? A girl I once liked, Luan answered sincerely. Liked. Ingrid looked at him. Yes, Luan said, but it was a long time ago. Now, she means nothing to me. Great. Ingrid lowered her head and smiled. Ingrid didn't notice how intimate her reaction was. She was just genuinely happy for Luan to say that Carol meant nothing to him. Ding. Asterisk. When the elevator stopped and opened, Luan released Ingrid's hand. It made her look at him and then at her hand that was now a little pink. She sighed with a small emptiness in her chest. Leaving through the elevator door, being on the third floor of the mall, Luan turned to Ingrid and said, okay, let's look at some more clothing stores. Asterisk. It's a lot of clothes. Ingrid murmured. Both Luan and Ingrid held many shopping bags. They ended up buying many everyday clothes. If anyone knew that this amount of clothing was only for a short, 3-week period, they would have been stunned. I just hope it's enough, Luan said. He knew that as they increased their level of cultivation, the training would get even harder. Quote. It must be, right. Upon hearing his words, Ingrid's expression was strange, as if doubting her own statement. Haha, it doesn't matter. If I need to, we can come back here, Luan said with an amused laugh. He found Ingrid's expression quite cute. Gee, okay. Ingrid's face flushed, but she quickly returned to her original state. Luan continued looking at her for a few seconds with a smile as they continued walking towards the elevator. Luan. Yes. He looked at her again. Don't you need to call Sebastian? She asked quizzically. Oh, I already did this while you were in the bathroom, Luan said. Well, Ingrid fell silent again and continued to walk beside Luan while holding many shopping bags. It's heavy, isn't it? Luan asked softly. It's okay. Did you forget that I too am strong? Ingrid asked rhetorically as she raised her right eyebrow. My mistake. Forget what I said. Luan chuckled. He had a lot of fun when he was with her. Ingrid showed him many different expressions, each more interesting than the last. In the end they left and did not meet Carol again. Asterisk. When they got home it was already afternoon. They had eaten a little at the mall, so they skipped lunch and got ready with the gym clothes they bought and started training. Unlike in the beginning, Ingrid was able to perform body movements at a considerably fast speed. She was already 17 times stronger than a normal man, although she was still slower compared to Luan, who was already 22 times stronger than a normal man. However, Luan was someone with vast experience, so he was surprised and very satisfied with the result that Ingrid managed to achieve. Luan didn't know what happened to Ingrid in his past life, but he thought that if she didn't die before the fourth awakening, she must have been someone he knew. Although, he couldn't recollect anyone who looked like her. As he no longer had to worry about the clothes tearing while training, Luan did the movement training even faster. Soon, his forehead began to drip with sweat. He moved so fast that, even for an instant, one could see his post-image. Sometimes it even seemed like he had more than 2 hands. Ingrid was often shocked when she saw him train. When he started to get tired and knew he couldn't continue, or he would end up hurting himself, Luan took a deep breath and exhaled, sitting on the floor with his legs crossed in the lotus position. Luan closed his eyes and began to perform the body meditation technique. The shackles of energy from heaven and earth began to manifest almost immediately when Luan started to meditate. Mana gathered around him, creating a semi-transparent dome. It was as if he were wrapped in a soap bubble. A few minutes later, Ingrid finished her movement training, and she was already soaked with her own sweat. Looking in Luan's direction while controlling her breathing, she thought, very incredible, he is. Oh no, she felt she was falling in love with this man named Luan Dimas. Shaking her head, banishing useless thoughts out of her mind, she took a few deep breaths. Slapping her face weakly, she encouraged herself, right. Don't think about anything. Just focus on cultivation. Chapter 12. Mother. What happened? Hello. After she finished meditating and was using the bathroom shower, Ingrid received a call. Ingrid, it's your Aunt Lucia. An aged voice from a woman about 40 years old came from the other end of the line. Hi Aunt. Is everything okay? Ingrid asked. Is everything okay? You damn child, because of you. Her voice was full of anger when she spoke, but she controlled herself and said everything in an orderly tone. Come on over to your house. Your mother passed out and there is tremendous confusion here. I think you better come soon. Although she didn't like the way her aunt spoke to her, right now that wasn't important. She was more concerned over her mother. Okay Aunt, I'm going. She then hung up without waiting for her aunt's reply, which made Lucia's aunt burn with rage and scream from how rude she had been. Luan was still meditating and seemed to be in the midst of a breakthrough in his cultivation. Ingrid, not wanting to disturb him, took a quick shower, changed clothes, and left a note saying that she returned home because her mother passed out. After taking the elevator down, the receptionist recognized Ingrid and asked, Ms. Ingrid, do you need me to call the driver? There is no need, but can you call me a taxi? Ingrid asked. Ms. Ingrid, Mr. Dimas made it clear that if you want to leave, you can always use the driver. You don't have to worry about calling a taxi. The receptionist said with a kind smile. Quote. Okay, thank you. Ingrid reluctantly accepted. She could already imagine the excitement it would cause when entering her neighborhood in a luxurious car. But, as she was very worried about her mother, she ended up giving in. You don't have to thank me. It's my pleasure to serve you, the receptionist smiled. Ingrid knew that she was receiving this warm treatment because of Luan, but she still smiled back at the woman. Good afternoon, Miss Ingrid. Sebastian, the same driver who took Luan and her to the mall, greeted Ingrid. He wore classic driver's clothing, wearing a black suit and hat. Sebastian, good afternoon, Ingrid said with a gentle smile. Ingrid followed Sebastian to the black Phantom Rolls-Royce and got in the car. Where does Miss Ingrid want to go? Sebastian asked as he looked in the rearview mirror. Joe. O Almeida de Oliveira Street. At Chico Mendes, Ingrid replied. Sebastian was a little surprised to hear where Ingrid wanted to go, but he didn't comment on that and nodded. Okay, Miss Ingrid. It will only take a few minutes to get there. Thanks, Ingrid thanked him. She was feeling restless, worried about her mother. She found her aunt's behavior even stranger than usual. Although her aunt always treated her poorly, she was never that rude. What exactly happened that made my mom pass out? Ingrid wondered as she looked outside the car. She couldn't imagine what could make her mother pass out since her mother was in good health and rarely went to the hospital. Ingrid held tightly to her simple Motorola cell phone while waiting to get home. When the car arrived in her neighborhood, people on the street looked in the direction of the black Phantom Rolls-Royce with curious eyes, and because it was a discreet car with dark film, they couldn't see who was inside the car. If they saw that it was Ingrid, much malicious gossip would spread. It's this pink house, Ingrid said suddenly. The house she pointed out was a small pink wooden house with 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a kitchen. Right away, Sebastian stopped the car near the sidewalk. When Ingrid left the black Phantom Rolls-Royce, many people recognized her and were in shock, especially her Aunt Lucia, who was waiting with a fierce expression at the gate of her house. You bitch. Lucia's aunt from Ingrid's father's side came towards her with bad intentions while cursing her loudly enough for everyone to hear. Sebastian, who was in the car, got out and thought of helping if it became necessary. He was no fool. He realized how much Luan Dimas appreciated this girl, and if he let something happen to her, his life could get complicated. Besides, he liked this girl who always greeted him with a kind smile, unlike the snobbish girls he was used to dealing with. Wow. Did she find a rich guy to tap? Me, I thought she was a serious girl. To think that she sold herself to a rich guy. This is hilarious, taking into account that her mother was always proud of how studious her daughter was and always got high marks. Well, she really is smart to sell her body to get a rich man. As expected, many envious people began to release all kinds of malicious comments in order to defame Ingrid. The truth was that any of these people, especially women, would be more than willing to sell their bodies to be with a rich guy and get out of this poor neighborhood. However, they could only envy her and make mean comments to alleviate their frustration and envy. When her Aunt Lucia came over and was about to slap her face, Ingrid dodged it naturally. Lucia looked at the empty space that Ingrid was supposed to be in and was stunned. She couldn't understand how Ingrid moved so fast. Don't you dare escape, you bitch. Lucia did not give up and went after Ingrid again. Slap. Asterisk. Unlike anything Lucia imagined, this time Ingrid didn't deflect but retaliated. A very strong slap that made Lucia's aged face change to red and swell up instantly caught her without warning. Lucia. Ingrid didn't even bother to call her aunt anymore. She said, I don't know what happened for you to call me a slut and a whore, and I don't even know why you are trying to hit me, looking like a wild beast, but don't think that I will stand still and let you hit me. You are not my mother and you have never helped us when my father, your brother, left, and you have no right to try to discipline me if I did something wrong. You. Lucia was so angry that she was foaming at her mouth. She felt so much pain in her face, she could barely speak. She could only look at Ingrid angrily while pointing her index finger. I won't leave things be like this. Just let me talk to Abelard. Just wait and see, you bitch. Lucia screamed inwardly as she thought about talking to her husband about all that happened. Lucia needed Ingrid to deny it, and to stop the police from chasing Bernardo, or else her husband too. She stopped with her train of thought. She didn't even want to imagine having to be poor again, although she had never been rich by any means, but only ever slightly well off. Sebastian, who was ready to help if necessary, was also surprised by Ingrid's actions. He couldn't help but lift his thumb up, seeing how beautiful the slap she gave her aunt was. Even the random people watching didn't think Ingrid would be so fierce. Usually, She was a quiet girl who never got involved in fights or arguments. This was the first time they had seen her to it, but they had to agree that it was true when her scoundrel of a father ran away with another woman, leaving a mother and 2 daughters behind. Ingrid's mother had to fend for herself, working as a cleaning lady in several houses to put food on the table. Lucia stared hatefully at Ingrid but didn't try to attack her anymore. It would be nonsense to try again. She only did it before because she didn't think Ingrid would fight back so fiercely. Ingrid ignored Lucia and entered through the wooden gate. Opening the door, she said, "Mom. I'm here." Her mother's voice came from her room. Ingrid walked very fast and entered her mother's room and saw her lying on a bed. Next to Ingrid's mother was her sister, wearing a very ugly expression. When she saw Ingrid, her expression got even uglier. "Mother. What happened?" Ingrid walked over to the bed and held her hand in both hands while looking at her with concern. From the facial features, one could see that Ingrid's mother was beautiful when she was young. She had blonde hair with blue eyes and a slightly wrinkled skin. Since she worked so hard to support her family alone, she seemed to be even older than she was. "Daughter." Her mother's voice was pitiful. She said to her daughter in anguish, "We are facing a great crisis." Chapter 13. Asking for help. What crisis exactly are you talking about, mother? Holding her mother's hand, Ingrid asked, very concerned. "Daughter dear," her mother said, anguished. As she spoke, tears were streaming from her eyes. "Something strange happened. We were summoned to be evicted from the house, saying that we are living here illegally, and we have no right to stay here, but I have the receipt of purchase. However, the court says it is invalid, that we are missing the deed for the house and now we have to move. Daughter, you know how much this mother struggled to save and be able to buy this little house. It was such a shock that I couldn't take it and ended up fainting." "Monica, you have nothing to do with this, right?" Ingrid asked with undisguised anger. "You are crazy, Ingrid. How could I do something like that?" Monica was defensive. She still didn't know that Ingrid was not raped by the guy from which Bernardo took a bribe. She just thought it was strange that Bernardo disappeared this morning without telling her anything. That son of a bitch. He must have run away with all my money. Yes, my daughter. Monica may be a little vain, but I don't think she would be able to do something like this to her own family. Their mother defended Monica. Clearly, she didn't know that Monica had sold her sister for money. "Mom, don't worry so much. I'll fix this," Ingrid said softly. She wasn't one to depend much on other people, but she thought she was at least a little close to Luan to be able to ask him for help. "You. Haha. This one I want to see," Monica sneered. She did not believe that Ingrid was able to resolve this situation. After all, the other side had the deed of the house, while they only had a receipt for the purchase and sale of the house. In addition, they had already received an eviction order. There was nothing to do. "Was I talking to you?" Ingrid looked at her sister with anger. If her mother was not present, she would have already taught Monica a lesson. "Humph." Monica snorted but was silent. She feared that Ingrid would end up telling her mother what she had done. Now, more than ever, she needed her mother since Bernardo ran away with all the money. Although she did not live together with her mother, Monica still asked her for money since her Aunt Lucia did not help her financially, just gave her a place to stay. Although Lucia's husband helped her a little, Ingrid ignored her sister and continued to talk to her mother, reassuring her. Initially, her mother was very worried and nervous. They only had a month to go, and she didn't have the money to rent a house. Her mother's salary was no longer high enough to be able to rent a house and buy groceries for the month. When Ingrid left the room, Monica followed her. In the kitchen, near the door leading to the street, Monica crossed her arms around her chest and said sarcastically, "Dear little sister, how do you intend to resolve this matter? Are you going to sell your body again?" Monica let out a giggle full of mockery as she continued to speak. "I bet Raphael would be willing to pay to have a hot night with you again. By the way, have you been with him all this time? If so, I bet it was hot, since it only came back to the news that our mother passed out." Slap. Asterisk. Ingrid's body was shaking with anger as she slapped Monica hard, which made Monica's body go against the wall. Monica looked at Ingrid in shock, not expecting her to react that way. She tried to fight back, but her hand was held tightly, and she took another slap. Slap. Asterisk. "You bitch. I'm not like you who go around sleeping with any man for money. It is better not to try to provoke me, even being my sister. With the anger that I have now, I am able to dismantle your pretty face that you are so proud of," Ingrid warned. Monica, who now had 2 swollen cheeks, was breathing fast with anger. She looked at Ingrid with hatred, almost eating her alive with her eyes. When Ingrid saw that Monica wanted to go back to their mother to pose as innocent, Ingrid said threateningly, "Don't even think about it. If our mother gets sick again, I swear on everything that is most sacred, it won't be just 2 swollen cheeks that you will get. You better not make a scene and let our mother see your face now. Listen to what I'm warning you. Ingrid, you will pay for this." Picking up her purse on the chair, Monica went out the door huffing, full of hatred. She had never seen her sister act so fierce. She admitted to herself that she was a little scared by Ingrid's threats and did not doubt what she said, since Ingrid was always overprotective with their mother. Ingrid took a deep breath, calming down, and left as well. She needed to resolve this matter soon. She couldn't leave her mother worrying about it for long. When she left, she saw Sebastian waiting for her, and she also saw Monica staring at the car with envy and greed. "Are you coming back now, Miss Ingrid?" Sebastian opened the back door of the car and asked her respectfully. Seeing her sister receiving this treatment, Monica's mouth was wide open and her eyes almost flew into orbit. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. How? Monica looked at Ingrid, then at Sebastian without understanding anything. Then she became even angrier as she saw this situation unfold. "Yes, let's go." Ingrid ignored Monica and got in the car. Sebastian closed the car door and then got in through the driver's door and drove away, leaving the stunned Monica looking at the car in the distance, not understanding what was going on. Was Raphael that rich, or was he about to let my sister have a private driver? Monica gnawed her nails, full of envy and hatred. Upon seeing that people noticed she was pointing at her while laughing, Monica became increasingly angry with her sister. This won't end like this, it really won't. When she had returned to the Dallas hotel, Ingrid said goodbye to Sebastian and took the elevator. Once she got off the elevator and arrived in front of suite 916, she took a deep breath and calmed down. She did not know how to approach this matter and ask for Luan's help. Ding, dong, She pressed the bell and Luan opened the door. "Please, come in." Luan gave way for her to enter. "Thanks." Entering the suite, she felt increasingly nervous. "Okay, do you need my help with something?" Luan noticed Ingrid's strange behavior, and thought that something serious must have happened to her mother, and asked worriedly. Quote. "Go ahead. If it's within my power, I promise to help you," Luan said attentively when he noticed her silence. Now, he was sure she needed his help. "So, where do I start?" "From the beginning, please," Luan said jokingly, trying to make her laugh, seeing that she was being very reserved and nervous. In fact, it helped a lot. Ingrid laughed a little and started to speak softly. "As I was going to say, my mother bought herself a house, but it was through a receipt of purchase and sale. This is super common in the neighborhood where we are currently living, but apparently the owner of the land with the deed of the house showed up and took her to court. And while I was away, there was a hearing and it was already proven that it was a real deed. The result came out today and now we have to leave the house within 30 days. But what about the person from whom your mom bought the sales receipt? Did she get to talk to that person?" Luan asked. "No. It was really a blow. That person, a few days before the owner appeared, he had already moved and nobody knows where he went," Ingrid said with regret. She knew about the struggle her mother had to buy their house and how many sacrifices she made to get it, being that she alone raised Ingrid and her sister. Let's get straight to the point. I can buy you a new home. And before you reject it, listen to me," Luan told her. "Okay." Ingrid waved her response. "Ingrid, as I said, I can buy you a house. This is very simple for me. But I believe I already know you a little, and I imagine that you will not want this for free. So, how about this? I'll talk to my mom later, and get you a good job. Of course, it won't be many hours of service, just a few hours a day, to give you time to go to college. What do you think? Can you do all this for me?" Ingrid was about to cry when she heard Luan's proposal. It was a fantastic thing to be able to work at Dimas Corp. Besides, she would be buying a house for her mother. That would be even more incredible. Since Luan would be helping, she wouldn't have to worry about someone wanting to take their house later, since for him, this would be a simple thing for him to achieve. "Of course I would." Luan smiled at her. "To be very sincere, now that you are a cultivator, it is not difficult to get this kind of money, and what I am doing for you will only help until you get something better. You may even be able to excel in one of my mom's companies. Everything will depend on your performance. I will do my best," Ingrid promised seriously. "Okay, it's too late to do anything today. We are going to look for a real estate agent tomorrow, and we will find a good home for you and your mother. And your sister? Luan asked, doubtfully. My sister no longer lives with me and my mother, she only sometimes appears. Now she lives at my Aunt Lucia's house. Luan noticed that when Ingrid said, Aunt Lucia, there was a twinge of anger in her voice. Okay, so tomorrow we can see to this and I'm going to talk to my mom and get you started working in 2 weeks. Luan asked, what do you think of that? Very good. Ingrid smiled gratefully. Really, thank you very much for the support you are giving me. You don't know how much this is helping me, so, thank you very much, from the bottom of my heart. Luan put his hand on her head and said, don't think too much about it. I think you're amazing, and I like you a lot. Don't think too much. As I said before, these are simple things for me. Now, let's go to the living room and have some food before bed. Okay, I'm just going to wash my face and hand quickly. Ingrid was deeply touched in her heart. At a time when she most needed support and help, Luan was there for her. It was a strange feeling, but very pleasant. Ingrid went to the bathroom and washed her hands and face. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw that her cheeks were pink. She took a few deep breaths, calming down, and then she went into the living room. Chapter 14. Did you still not recognize me? Ingrid had dinner and then called her mother saying she wouldn't be home today but would be back tomorrow. She also warned her not to worry too much about the situation in the house, as she got help from a good friend and soon things would work out. Luan also called his mother. Ingrid's situation was easy to resolve, but he still needed to talk to his mother to see if she could get an internship for Ingrid to work. Of course, when he mentioned he was trying to get a part-time job for a young girl who was going to college, his mother was so excited with the hope that he had found a girlfriend. Logically, she immediately gave the go-ahead, saying Ingrid could start in 2 weeks, just as Luan planned. Regarding the house, he did not ask his mother for help, since he had enough money to buy it with his own funds. The next morning, Luan woke up early and started practicing the 48 movements of the body technique, less than divine spiritual body greater than. Ingrid woke up minutes later. She washed her face and joined Luan, doing her exercises. When it was close to noon, both Luan and Ingrid had already finished doing the day's exercises and meditation. Luan looked at Ingrid and said, as soon as we have lunch, we can go to a real estate agent to talk to them and find a good place for you and your mother to live. Okay. Ingrid replied shyly. She still felt strange having received so much kindness from Luan. It was kind of like they were dating. Asterisk. When it was almost 2 p.m., Luan and Ingrid left the hotel. This time Luan didn't want a driver, and they took a taxi. Around 2:30 a.m. they arrived at New Key, Real Estate. The front of the real estate office was covered with glass with a black film and a glass door. Ingrid followed Luan into the office as soon as they got out of the taxi. Hello. Good afternoon. How can I help you? A nice woman smiled when talking to them. She wore a black suit with white clothes underneath and high heels. Good afternoon. I want to buy a house with 2 bedrooms. Luan went straight to the point. Do you prefer it to be a house, or do you want to take a look at the apartments too? The broker, Bruna asked. Luan looked at Ingrid since he didn't know what her preference would be. Home, Ingrid replied. Okay. What neighborhood would you be interested in buying from? We have many 2-bedroom houses at a fair price, said the broker, Bruna. One that is close to the regional hospital, Ingrid replied. Okay. You can look here. We have many good places, especially these houses in Praia Comprida, which is a neighborhood in the municipality of S. O. Jose. The broker showed a catalog with the houses and specifications. It was a little far from the place where Ingrid and her mother currently lived, but it was also very close to the regional hospital where her mother worked as a nurse, so it was possibly a good choice to buy a house in that neighborhood. Ingrid was surprised since Praia Comprida was a very good neighborhood, the houses were also very expensive. One of the houses interested Ingrid greatly, but the value was 650,000 Brazilian reals, $120,000. Luan saw that Ingrid seemed to want this house, but she didn't have the courage to speak. We want to look at this yellow house with a garden in front and an orchard at the back of the land, Luan said to broker Bruna. The broker Bruna was happy to see that they were interested in this house. She smiled even more and said, you two came by car. If not, I can take you both in my car to see the house. Luan. Ingrid wanted to refuse, but she really wanted this house. She saw that he gave her a reassuring smile and said it was okay. Although she was happy with Luan's gestures, it was difficult to accept that he would buy a house worth more than 500,000 rias. After all, the house that she and her mother currently lived in was not even worth 50,000 rias. Luan put his hand on her head and said, "Relax. Soon you will understand that this amount of money is very small. As long as you have me, it's only a matter of time before you understand that." Have me? What is he trying to imply with this? Ingrid felt her heart racing, but she didn't have the courage to ask him what he meant when he said this to her. Still not convinced. Luan raised a frown when asking, still with his hand on her head. "Yes, I am convinced." Ingrid thought that regardless of his intention, she would find out sooner or later. And she decided to receive his help and hope that in the future she would be able to repay everything he was doing for her. The real estate broker Bruna laughed secretly when she saw the interaction of Luan and Ingrid and thought to herself that they made a cute couple. Outside, the trio went to the garage of the real estate building and got into Bruna's car. Almost 4 minutes after they left the property, Bruna said while driving, "You will love the house. On the street where the house is located, it is super quiet, and the house is just a few blocks from the sea and the boardwalk." "Looks good," Ingrid said. "Yes, to tell you the truth, I was looking at this house myself to live with my son, only it is out of my budget. In any case, it is a great house," Bruna said with a sigh. The rest of the way was silent, just a few words exchanged between Luan and Ingrid. "We are here." Bruna stopped the car in front of the same yellow house that Ingrid and Luan had seen in the catalogue. As in the photo, the house was well maintained with a well-kept garden in the front yard. On the right side of the house was the garage and next to the garage was the kitchen access door. "Shall we go in?" Bruna got out of the car and unlocked the gate with the key. "Yes." Luan and Ingrid followed soon after the broker. Bruna opened up the gate and entered. Upon entering the house, they came across the kitchen, which already had a wooden table and 4 metal chairs, each with a white cushion. The kitchen also contained a sink, some cabinets, a microwave, refrigerator, stove, and electric oven. Next to the stove was a door which gave access to the service area, and on the other side was another door that gave access to the bathroom. The bathroom was large with a blue sink that had a marble basin and a mirror on the top. In the bathroom stall there was a white bathtub and a shower next to it. As Bruna showed them around, they soon arrived in the living room that already had 2 sofas for 3 people and an armchair. In the living room, there was also a large metal door with glass and a metal grill. Entering the room on the right, they saw it was large and cozy. It was also one of the only places in the house that had no furniture. In the other room on the direct opposite side it was no different, almost the same size, and in the middle of the 2 rooms was another bathroom. Inside the bathroom were a sink and a small mirror on top of it, and on the right side was the shower stall. "Isn't it beautiful?" After showing all the rooms in the house, Bruna asked them with a smile. "Yes, I liked it a lot," Ingrid said sincerely. It was even better than she had expected. "Is it not?" Bruna smiled and said, "There is still the back part of the land where there is a beautiful orchard." Ingrid and Luan followed Bruna to the back of the property. Once there, they saw the green grass floor, and to the left side was a clothesline, and on the right side were 5 orange trees. In front of the orchard, there was a leisure area, with a plastic table and 2 chairs and a barbecue covered with dark brown flooring. Next to the barbecue, there was a small sink. Editor note: in the United States and some other predominantly English-speaking nations, orange orchards are often referred to as groves, but many other countries still commonly refer to them as orchards. Do you like it? Luan didn't think it was bad but still wanted to know what Ingrid thought, since it was for her and her mother that this house was intended. To be quite honest, yes, I find it very beautiful. Ingrid was very pleased with this house. She was sure that her mother would love it too. She just hadn't thought about how to give this news to her mother later. "Okay, let's take this home." Luan was decisive. He saw no reason to think too much. "Luan, aren't you afraid that I won't be able to pay later?" Ingrid couldn't help asking. Well, if that does happen, which I find difficult, it's not too much. I've told you this before, you worry too much. What I'm doing for you may seem like a lot, but in reality, it is not." Luan knew that no matter how much he said, Ingrid would still doubt it, considering the life she had before, but he was sure that in time she would understand. "Okay, I trust you." Ingrid smiled. "I'm glad you decided to purchase the house," said Bruna. "Let's go back to the agency and sign the contract." "Yes," Luan agreed. After that, the two returned in the car with Bruna to the real estate agency. Once there, There was someone who made Ingrid furrow her beautiful eyebrows. Bernardo. Ah, ha ha. Ingrid, what a pleasure to see you here. Bernardo laughed, but angrily and full of malice in his tone. Honey, who is this slut? Beside Bernardo was a blonde woman with blue eyes and full breasts almost exploding from her bra. She was in tight clothes, showing a lot of skin, with shorts so small that they could be mistaken for underwear. An oppressive aura started to leave Luan's body and press the body of Bernardo and the woman with few clothes and thick makeup. Luan spoke in a cold and indifferent voice, so, it's you. Sorry, have we met? Bernardo, who was being choked by Luan's aura, had difficulty breathing. He looked at Luan and didn't know why it seemed that if he took a false step, he would be dead. Hey, look at my face. Haven't you recognized me yet? Luan chuckled coldly. You, Luan Dimas. Bernardo's eyes went wide open and his heart began beating very fast. Chapter 15. What else can you do, other than empty threats? I see that you're not a complete fool. Understand, I wasn't very interested in looking for the guy behind my kidnapping, but since you came to me, there's no way I wouldn't take this chance, right? Luan said nonchalantly. Bernardo started to scratch his waist as if he was trying to imply something. Of course, Luan understood that Bernardo meant that he was armed and to not act rashly. However, he was wrong to think that Luan would be afraid of a gun. Kidnapping. Ingrid looked at Bernardo and then shook her head. She thought that this time Bernardo had finally gone too far. He just had to have Luan Dimas kidnapped. Bernardo was a real fool. Luan, he was the one who told my sister to drug me and negotiated with Raphael. Well, the rest you already know, Ingrid said with undisguised anger. She didn't care if Bernardo lived or died. After all, he was the bastard who sold her to be raped. If it hadn't been for Bernardo, as bad as her sister was, Monica wouldn't have planned to do anything like that. Oh, I see, it seems that we are bound by fate in several ways. Luan smiled as he looked at Ingrid, but then he looked at Bernardo again with a cold look. Quote. Ingrid said nothing, but she hoped it was true what Luan had said about the two of them. My love, I can't breathe. The voluptuous blonde woman next to Bernardo had just about passed out. Bruna was at a loss as for what to do, as were the real estate employees, who when they heard of a kidnapping case and heard that Luan's name was Luan Dimas, they almost had a heart attack. Since although there were several men with the name Luan Dimas, he was the only Luan Dimas with white hair and red eyes. My God. Bruna covered her mouth in shock. Pulling out a .38 chrome pistol, Bernardo pointed it at Luan. Hya! The women inside the real estate center screamed in fear. Luan's silhouette blinked, and before Bernardo could notice, Luan was already in front of him holding Bernardo's wrist very tightly and with the sound of crack. Bernardo's wrist bone was reduced to splinters, becoming as thin as a broomstick. Ah! Bernardo cried out in pain and dropped the gun on the floor. Blen! The metallic sound echoed the moment the pistol fell to the floor. And now, what else can you do, other than spout empty threats? Luan's voice was emotionless. No one could discern whether his tone was incredulous or indifferent. However, after Luan crushed Bernardo's wrist, Luan made the aura around himself cold and dense. It was as if he were the devil himself, causing almost everyone inside the real estate agency to pass out. Only Ingrid and Bernardo remained awake. Bernardo only retained consciousness because of the pain he felt in his wrist that had been crushed by Luan. If not, with as weak as his mind was, it would be difficult to say when he would have been able to wake up again. What the hell is he? Bernardo, looking at the pair of red eyes in front of him, was very afraid for his life. He strongly believed that with Luan's status, it was easy for Luan to kill him and not suffer any consequences. Man, I'm sorry. You are my god, my father. I will be your subordinate and do whatever you say, but please don't kill me. Bernardo cried while begging for forgiveness. Bernardo had never been as afraid as he was now, even when he had faced the police, since there were laws that had protected him. However, to someone of Luan's caliber, laws meant nothing. Even if he was caught, he could easily avoid punishment. In addition, Bernardo was someone hated by the police and society as a whole, a drug supplier who ran a slum. Many wanted him dead, even other criminals who competed with him. Hey, if I said that I'm surprised by what you said, I would be lying. But don't expect that I would want someone like you as my subordinate. And as for killing you, well, Luan didn't say, but it didn't look like he was going to let Bernardo escape with just the bones of his wrist being crushed into splinters. Luan looked at Ingrid. You are the one who suffered the most because of him, and I'm going to kill him if you don't want to do it. You don't actually need to get your hands dirty, but I'm still going to let you choose what you wish to do. No, no, no. You can't do that. Just let me go and I promise never to do anything wrong again, please. You need to give me a chance to redeem myself. Bernardo didn't know what Luan had done to cause everyone to pass out, and he didn't know how Luan could be so powerful that he could shatter his wrist. However, he didn't doubt that Luan would kill him now. Ingrid was undecided. She hated Bernardo and to be honest, she wanted him dead, but she didn't know whether or not she wanted to execute justice with her own hands. Seeing that Ingrid was in doubt, Bernardo saw that she was the only chance for him to get out of this alive. He shouted while looking at her, Ingrid, you need to believe me. I know you have a good heart and you are a woman of integrity who wouldn't dare to commit something like murder. After all, you're just a woman. You're a woman and you don't want to have that sort of weight on your mind. Even if you don't kill me, you'll always remember it because I died and you wouldn't be able to bear that weight. Oh, what Bernardo said now and the way he spoke, it was as if in his mind women were inferior to men in many ways, and that somehow made Ingrid angry. The more she heard Bernardo speak, the angrier she became, and that was when her body practically moved on its own. Ingrid's hand struck into Bernardo's chest like a spear, with her 5 fingers together in a point. Bernardo's flesh tore as his heart was pierced. His eyes were still wide open, looking at Ingrid in total disbelief. How can a simple woman be that strong? These were Bernardo's last thoughts as he died. Ingrid's body shook and she felt shocked. She wanted to get rid of the blood on her hand as soon as she pulled it out of Bernardo's chest. What do we do now? Ingrid didn't know what to do. She had acted on impulse and now she could only depend on Luan for guidance. There's a bathroom over there. You can use it to wash your hands. Luan, seeing her so shaken, remembered the first time he had killed someone. Although it may have seemed cruel, it was something that Luan expected Ingrid to experience eventually. Now I need to use some of my divine sense and change the last few minutes of their memories. Although he had not started cultivating a chi cultivation technique, Luan already had a stronger mind than normal people. Changing a few minutes of the memories of these normal people was easy for him. The woman who came in with Bernardo before was the first person he changed the memories of the last few minutes and made her want to go to her house. Luan placed her sitting on a chair and made her wake up. I need to go home, she said as soon as she woke up, and then she left. She looked like a puppet, walking robotically. After that, Luan saw a back door and carried Bernardo's body through it. Ingrid, who came out of the bathroom with a pale face, saw Luan carrying Bernardo's body. She ended up feeling a knot form in her stomach and ended up going back to the bathroom to throw up. After she threw up everything she had to throw up, Ingrid went to the reception and saw that the voluptuous woman was already gone. Ingrid was worried that the woman woke up and left scared and was possibly going to call the police, so Ingrid hurried to the back of the estate, where Luan had gone before. Luan, spotting him, Ingrid said, the woman who was with Bernardo is gone. You don't have to worry. I made her leave. I simply hypnotized her a little and made her forget what she saw before, Luan replied nonchalantly. I see. That is good. Ingrid put her hand on her chest and sighed with relief. It was not known if it was because of this, but she was calmer after she did so. But then she frowned because Bernardo's body had now disappeared. What happened to Bernardo's body? I made him disappear forever. You don't have to worry. No one will find out what happened here, Luan said with a comforting smile. Ingrid saw that Luan had many secrets, but she wouldn't try to find out if he didn't want to tell her. Ingrid took a deep breath and said, I see. This is good, I think. Yes, he is better dead than alive. You don't have to feel guilty about something like him. Luan spoke as if Bernardo's life was even more insignificant than an insect. I will try. Ingrid nodded and asked, and what about the people inside the estate? What do you intend to do with them? I'm just going to erase the last few minutes of their memories, and then we can buy the house, Luan replied. Chapter 16. That handsome boy might be my son-in-law. Although a little pale and looking like she was going to be sick at any moment, Ingrid struggled not to think too much about what had happened. I saw floor cloth and cleaning products. I will go get them and wipe the blood off the floor while you do what you have to do. Okay. I'm going to leave this to you then. Luan smiled at her as he rubbed her head, comforting her. Ingrid was not used to this, but still, she did not remove his hand. She confessed to herself that it helped her a little to calm down. After that, Luan went to the 3 women and 1 man who were inside the estate office and started to erase their memories. He even made them think that the current time was the time that Ingrid, the broker, and he had returned. Almost 10 minutes later, Ingrid finished cleaning all the blood on the floor with bleach and used a cleaning product to remove the smell of blood. She even sprayed a scented product a few extra times for good measure. Another 10 minutes passed and Luan finally finished erasing the memories of the 4 people. Perhaps because he was not yet at a very high level with his mind, he felt a little overwhelmed. However, he still stood his ground. And now, we just wait for them to wake up? Ingrid asked. No, I still need to delete what was recorded by the security camera. While saying this, Luan went to the computer that was transmitting the images from the camera and hacked the real estate system and erased everything that was recorded and reprogrammed it to start recording after 1 hour. With all this finished, he got up and said, "Done. Now I just need to wake them up." Unlocking the door, Luan lifted Bruna off the floor and placed her standing in front of him and told Ingrid to stand beside him. After that, he snapped his finger and everyone was awakened simultaneously. Although they felt strange and felt that something was wrong, they started to act normally. Bruna was the first to speak. "Come, you can sit down while I prepare the paperwork for the house." "Okay." Luan nodded and went to the chair and sat down. Ingrid did the same and sat down next to him. Bruna went to the other side of the table, and started to prepare the house documents, as well as the deed. She came back and said, "Mr. Luan, how would you like to pay?" "With my debit card," Luan said as he handed her the card. Quote. Bruna was a little surprised, but managed to compose herself and smiled professionally as she passed the card through the card machine. "Okay, Mr. Luan, can you enter your password, please?" "Yes." Nodding, Luan entered the password. After it was approved, Bruna said, "The papers are already filled. Mr. Luan just needs to sign and the house will be in his name." "No, I want to leave it in her name." Luan turned to Ingrid. "Ingrid, you sign." "Okay." Ingrid nodded and started signing the papers for the house documents. "It's all correct. This, here, is the registration and the deed on the house," Bruna said with a smile. Ingrid was thrilled. She almost forgot what had just happened before. Asterisk. At the entrance to the suite at the Dallas Hotel. "Welcome back, Mr. Dimas and Miss Ingrid." Samantha received them both with a professional smile. When Luan and Ingrid arrived in front of their suite, Luan passed the electronic card and the door opened. "Hungry?" Luan looked at Ingrid as he entered the suite. "I'm fine. I just need a shower. Many things have happened, you know," Ingrid replied in a tired voice. "Okay. I'm going to be watching television in the living room," Luan said and went to the living room. Asterisk. Luan, at the end of the afternoon I will go to my mother's home and give her the good news about the house. Ingrid seemed nervous when asking, "Would you want to go with me?" Seeing her act shyly, Luan couldn't help but think she was cute. He smiled and said, "Yes, if it's not a problem, I will. It wouldn't be a nuisance. I would be very happy if you went along." Ingrid regretted noticing that she ended up raising her tone when she had spoken in a hurry. "Okay, I will." Luan pretended not to notice how nervous she was when talking to him and nodded. "Great." Ingrid put her hands together in the form of a prayer, and it was easily noticeable how happy she was about it. Asterisk. On the road to Ingrid's house, Sebastian was driving. "Luan, is it okay if I tell my mom that you helped me buy the house and that I'm going to start working at your business while I pay for the house?" Ingrid asked suddenly. "I do not see a problem. I already had that intention," Luan replied. "Thanks." Ingrid no longer knew how many times she had thanked him, but she still didn't think it was enough. When they arrived in the neighborhood where Ingrid lived, the car drew a lot of attention and some even remembered that it was in that same car that Ingrid came last time. Because of this, people paid close attention. Even those who didn't see it the day before heard what happened, and because of that, they already knew that it was possibly Ingrid inside the car. When the car stopped in front of Ingrid's mother's house, it only confirmed the suspicions of the people watching. Ingrid got out and Luan got out of the car shortly after her. Seeing the pink house, Luan was not surprised that it was very small when compared to the one he bought for Ingrid. "Shall we go in?" Ingrid said in a low, shy voice. She felt like she was taking her boyfriend to meet her mother, which made her heart beat very fast. "Okay." Luan nodded and entered with her. Sebastian was waiting in the car. As they passed through the iron gate, they walked just a little ways to get to the door. "Mom, are you there?" Seeing that the door was unlocked, Ingrid opened it and asked a little loudly. "Yes, I'm in the bathroom, her mother replied. Seeing Luan waiting in front of the door, Ingrid said, come in. I know the house is small, but you can sit in this chair. Ingrid dragged a brown wooden chair with a white cushion for Luan to sit on. Luan did as she asked and sat down. Ingrid, is anyone there with you? Her mother screamed. Yes, Mom, I have a. Ingrid replied. Friend, I have my friend here. Oh child, you should have warned me earlier. I'm not even dressed up. Wait just a few minutes. I'm already leaving. Her mother misinterpreted what Ingrid said and thought that finally her daughter got a boyfriend. She was already suspicious, since Ingrid hadn't been home for a few days, saying she was at a friend's house. Mother. Ingrid understood what her mother was implying, but she ended up not correcting the misunderstanding now. She would wait for her mother to come out of the bathroom, since talking like they had was embarrassing and everyone on the street could possibly hear. A few minutes later, Ingrid's mother came out of the bathroom and was wearing some weak makeup and pink lipstick. She had her hair tied in a high ponytail and wore a casual honey-colored outfit, being pants and a long-sleeved blouse. Good afternoon. I'm sorry the house is messed up like it is. This child, she didn't even tell me she would bring a visitor. Although surprised by how elegant and handsome Luan was, Ingrid's mother greeted him with a welcoming smile. That handsome boy might be my son-in-law. Ingrid's mother assessed Luan from top to bottom and couldn't help but be satisfied. Good afternoon. My name is Luan Dimas. Sorry to come like this without warning, Luan, who got up from the chair, told her. No need to apologize, I know it's my daughter who did things without warning. Ingrid's mother said with a smile, anyway, make yourself at home. Mom, I'm going to get right to the point. Ingrid looked at Luan with a little embarrassment at what her mother had said, but she knew she had more serious matters to deal with. Luan, he lent me money to buy a house and I'm going to start working at his mother's company to pay him back for the house. Chapter 17. Luan's father was behind all this. Did you borrow money and get a job? Ingrid's mother looked very surprised, but at the same time, confused. She studied Luan thoroughly. She was a woman who believed she could see a bit of a person's character and didn't think Luan was a bad person, but still, she was suspicious. Yes, Mom. Luan lent me the money for the house and got me a job at his mom's company. I know it seems to be hard to believe, but that's the truth. Ingrid tried to explain so as not to let her mother have any misunderstandings. Luan, is what she said right? Seeing him nod, Ingrid's mother, Amanda, looked at him seriously. Don't get me wrong, but I need to know. What are your intentions toward my daughter? Mother. Ingrid, as much as I respect your choices and decisions, I hope you understand my concerns too. Amanda cut her daughter off from speaking. Ingrid was silent. She was a little embarrassed, but still she remained brave, looking at Luan, waiting for his answer. I think your daughter is amazing. I like her very much and I want the best for her. When she asked for my help, I did not accept with ulterior motives. I really want to help you and your daughter, Luan replied seriously. Ingrid cringed from embarrassment but was very happy with what she heard. She looked at Luan lovingly and then stared at the floor shyly. Her mother, seeing this, already knew that her daughter was in love with this boy, but she saw that their relationship was still beginning, so she didn't try to interfere any more than that. She looked back at Luan and said, okay, I've decided to trust you. I hope you do everything you said and will be good for my daughter. I will. Luan nodded and spoke with confidence. Amanda smiled and said, I'm now more relaxed about having this conversation. Can we go to see this house? Yes, we can go right now. Luan agreed and looked at Ingrid, waiting on her approval. Amanda did the same. Ingrid, who was very red, just wanted to find a hole in which to hide, but still, she agreed. Yes, let's go. The three left the house. Amanda locked the door and when she arrived at the street and saw the car and especially the driver, who one would normally find only in movies, treating Luan and Ingrid with such formality, she was amazed. Mr. Dimas, Miss Ingrid. Sebastian greeted them cordially and looked at Amanda and gave a friendly smile. Hello, miss. Feel free to call me Sebastian. Hello, you can call me Amanda, she greeted him. Where did my daughter end up meeting this boy? Once again Amanda felt suspicious. She didn't know how her daughter could meet someone with such a different status, since she never went to any fancy places that could give this opportunity. Where would you all want to go, Mr. Dimas? Sebastian asked politely. It is on the Long Beach, on 4X Street, Luan replied. Amanda's eyes flew wide open as she knew the neighborhood he mentioned and knew it was a more upscale neighborhood, not a place she would be able to afford. But she decided to stay silent and find out when they got there. Ingrid could see her mother's concern and discomfort, but it was logical. It was very luxurious to compare against the life she and her mother led currently. When the black car started to leave the neighborhood, many people began to speculate several things, but what they talked about most was that Ingrid found a rich and handsome boy and hit the jackpot. Some women were biting themselves with envy. They wished to be so lucky to meet someone rich and handsome. On the way, Amanda asked, "Luan, where are you from?" "I live in Juror Internacional. I'm in Florianopolis to visit," Luan replied. "Oh, I've been there before. It's a beautiful place," Amanda said with longing. "Seriously, Mom, when was that?" Ingrid was curious about this. "It was when I was 17. I won 3 tickets to a water park with the tickets paid for in advance through a drawing, and it was with your grandmother and grandfather," Amanda replied. The 3 continued to talk until they arrived in front of the yellow house. "Is this the place?" Amanda asked incredulously. She saw that in this neighborhood there were only well-kept houses and everything seemed very calm. "Yes, it is this yellow house," Ingrid confirmed with a smile. Upon hearing this, Sebastian, who was driving slowly, stopped the car in front of the house. "Let's go," Luan said when opening the car door and then exited the vehicle. Ingrid and Amanda also got out of the car. Outside, Amanda still looked confused. She pointed at the house and asked, "Are you sure this is the house?" "Yes, Mom. This is it." Ingrid was already expecting this reaction from her mother, since after all, before they had lived in a house much simpler than this one. "Wow." Amanda covered her mouth with surprise. "What exactly is going on between my daughter and this young boy?" She looked again at Ingrid and Luan. She saw that the two seemed to get along very well, but it was not as if the two were dating, but she had already noticed that her daughter liked Luan. Ingrid opened the gate and she, Luan, and Amanda entered the house, while Sebastian waited outside the car. Ingrid invited him in as well, but he preferred to wait outside. While walking through the house, Amanda couldn't help but be more and more surprised. It was all very beautiful and already had some expensive furniture. Everything seemed perfect by her standards. Asterisk. On an island in Germany, Becker clan. Father. Bernardo failed to kidnap that bastard of mine. Leon Becker, son of the current patriarch of the Becker clan, said full of anger and fear. "You asshole." With the sound of pow, Leon took a punch from his father, who was a man in his 70s, however, had the vitality and appearance of a 40-year-old man. Crack. Asterisk. Leon hit a glass table when he fell, causing the crystal to shatter. On the floor, Leon was covered with broken glass on his shoulder and face, as well as some on his leg. He groaned in pain as he looked at his father with dread. Pointing his index finger, Walter Becker, Leon Becker's father, trembled with anger. "It was a simple thing, even though you were unable to perform it. I cannot understand how I turned out to have such a worthless son, if you really are my son." Upon hearing the last part, Leon Becker closed his hands tightly while he trembled. He still remembers the day his mother was beaten to death by his father, as Walter did not believe that Leon was his son. However, with DNA tests, Leon was proven to be the son of Walter Becker, but because he did not achieve the goals his father wanted, he refused to acknowledge Leon as his son. "Dad, don't worry. I'm going personally, and this time I'm going to make her fall madly in love with me and give me all her money," Leon Becker said with a distorted expression. "It has become even worse with the punch mark he took. After all, she is just a foolish woman. She has already fallen in love with me once, and if I knew she was heir to Dimas Corp, I wouldn't have let her slip away. But it's not too late. I know I can do this. Trust me, Dad. Okay, I'll give you just one more chance. If I can't get my hands on that money, you can forget about ever coming back." Walter Becker left the living room, huffing. He didn't quite believe his son, but he still thought what he said was viable. How did Bernardo fail? I can't even get in touch with him. Well, it doesn't matter. I need to get my hands on that money, or else, not just living on this island would be out of the question. My father is even capable of having someone kill me. When he thought about this, Leon Becker couldn't help but fear for his life. He loved living too much, and this island was practically paradise. He didn't want to leave the island, much less die. Asterisk. After many conversations, Amanda and Ingrid decided to move in that same day. Although not much, Amanda had some money saved and used it to hire a moving truck. Sebastian again drove everyone back to Amanda and Ingrid's old house. When they arrived, the moving truck was already waiting for them. It was a very quick process since the women didn't have much. In the neighborhood, a group of housewives started talking. Hey, Amanda is really moving, said a middle-aged woman wearing a dark blue one-piece dress. Well, it was to be expected. And to think that she was so proud of buying that house with hard work. A woman in her late 50s, wearing gray trousers and a gray t-shirt snickered when she said that. I see she came back in that car, and that handsome boy is with her again. I wish he was here for me. Could he have bought a house for Amanda, perhaps? The daughter of the woman with the blue dress speculated. She was not so young, nor so old, at the age of 29, wearing short denim shorts and a strapless blacktop. Tisk. And here I thought that Ingrid was different from the other sister, but in the end, it was all flour from the same bag. The woman in the blue dress spat on the floor, showing her disdain. In truth, she was green with envy. She really wanted her daughter to be able to find a rich man to buy her a house. Mom, it doesn't have to be like that. No one can blame her for selling her body for money. Although she spoke as if she were defending Ingrid, the daughter of the woman in the blue dress was actually ridiculing her while laughing contemptuously. But not for an instant did she take her eyes off Luan and the beautiful car. She was almost drooling while watching. Well, as expected of a single mother. She didn't know how to educate her daughter like I educated mine, the woman in the blue dress said proudly, but had a man like Luan asked her to, she would have thrown herself into his bed. This two-faced woman would have definitely betrayed her husband without thinking twice. What these gossiping women didn't realize was that Luan and Ingrid were able to hear everything they were saying. Ingrid snorted with anger. It was not enough that they spoke ill of her, these women still dared to speak ill of her mother. Luan did not intend to do anything, but seeing Ingrid like this, he pointed at the foot of the woman in the blue dress, and that was when a strong wind was launched. Caught by the gust of wind, the woman lost her balance and started to fall. In the process, she pulled her daughter's hand, and the two went prone to the ground. The worst thing was that a few days ago it rained and the ground still had a puddle of mud, and when the pair of mother and daughter fell, they fell into the mud puddle, causing themselves to get all dirty. Damn it, Mom. The daughter of the woman in the blue dress who wore little clothing cursed, and looking in Ingrid's direction, she could have sworn she saw a smile mocking her. She was so angry and ashamed by all this that she ran straight home. The woman in the blue dress also stood up and wailed. This dress that she was wearing was her best dress. She only wore it due to Luan's appearance with his luxurious car. She left with her head hung low without saying a word. The other women couldn't stand it and started laughing out loud. Although they were friends, they could not help but laugh at the spectacle. Chapter 18. Type 3 Metal. When the moving truck arrived at Ingrid's and her mother, Amanda's, new home, Luan was still there helping with the move. Even Sebastian offered to help, which increased the rate of progress. When Amanda saw her daughter practically carry by herself a cabinet that weighed 50 pounds as if it were nothing, she was so shocked that she almost fell over. Although he knew that Ingrid could very well carry this alone, Luan helped her not to raise suspicions of Ingrid's current strength. Not that he cared that Ingrid was going to tell her mother, but there were still the moving people. If people from hidden sects and clans ended up finding out about it, it would become a problem. When all the items were unloaded, Amanda paid and thanked the movers. Thank you very much. You guys were a great help. We are the ones who appreciate it. If you need anything else, you can always contact us, the driver of the moving truck said with a friendly smile. After that, he and the rest got into the truck and drove off. Luan and Sebastian, you two already helped a lot. You can now leave the rest to me and my daughter, Amanda said to them with a grateful smile. She was especially grateful for Luan, who helped a lot by buying this house and finding a job for her daughter, which allowed her to still go to college. Luan replied calmly, I am in no hurry to return, and I am willing to stay and help if it is not a nuisance. Amanda didn't need to ponder it any longer. She started to be even more sure that this young fellow liked her daughter too, although he remained calm enough to mask it. Of course it wouldn't be a bother. I would be more than grateful if you are willing to help. Thanks. Ingrid was very excited. She almost jumped with happiness when she saw how willing Luan was to help. As long as Mr. Dimas is here, I can also stay and help, said Sebastian. He had already been warned that he was to always be available to Luan. In doing so, not only was it good for his reputation at the Dallas hotel, he would also receive extra money at the end of the month. Okay, so we will both stay and help. I promise you will not regret it, Luan said. Yes, sir. Sebastian was excited to hear this. Although it was his job, and he had already been warned that he should be fully available if Luan needed him, still, hearing this from Luan Dimas was an entirely different matter. After that, for almost half an hour, Luan, Ingred, Amanda, and Sebastian kept putting the furniture in the right places. Thank you so much, Luan. I have no words to describe how grateful I am for you. Ingrid took the initiative to thank him with a smile which formed two pretty dimples on her pink cheeks. She then looked at Sebastian. You too, Sebastian. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the help. There was a gentle smile on Amanda's face as she spoke. She was a little incredulous about everything that happened in that single day. She felt trapped in a dream inside this house. And the more she looked at Luan, the more she liked him and thought he would be the ideal match for her daughter. My pleasure, Sebastian replied to the women with a friendly smile. I helped because I wanted to. You don't need to thank me. Luan's voice was calm and his lips curved in an arc formed into a smile. Only that simple smile and manner of speaking made Ingrid blush. Even Amanda was affected, but not as much as Ingrid. Unlike her daughter, she soon recovered. What a most attractive boy. Amanda thought. Asterisk. In the suite, Luan was alone. Ingrid stayed to keep her mother company, since it was the first day in the new house. She did, however, promise that she would be back the next morning very early, as she didn't want to miss the time to train with Luan. Distracted by his own thoughts, Luan turned on the television without much intention to watch. Serial killer is still on the loose. The killer's victims are mostly good-looking young boys. And now, with new updates. 2 days ago a piece of meteorite was found near Barramar in Florianopolis. Currently, tests are being done on this meteorite stone and indicate that it is composed of an unregistered metal, but more tests and research still need to be done. Luan, who had his eyes closed, suddenly opened them. He looked at a 52-inch television. This is a Type 3 piece of metal. Luan was able to recognize the metal immediately. Although it was rare now, it would not be difficult to find after the Third Awakening. Even though it is not rare later, it is still very rare now. If I could do that. Luan forced himself to think and try to remember if he knew any news about this piece of meteor. But as much as he thought, nothing came to mind. The meteorite was found near the sea in Barramar. I need to go and see if I can still find something there. If I use a little of my sensory perception, I may be able to feel the stone nearby. Although his senses were not as strong now as they had been in his last life, he was confident that he could feel a Type 3 metal several kilometers away from him. If he was indeed able to find it, it could become a big gain for the current him. Having made up his mind, Luan picked up black pants and sneakers, as well as a gray short-sleeved t-shirt. Afterward, he left the suite. Asterisk. As the place where he needed to go was not far from where he was, Luan decided to walk. The weather was damp and the wind was freezing. Most of the people walking on the street were wearing warm clothes, but Luan was unaffected by the cold. He continued to walk towards Barramar. The site where the meteorite was found shown on the TV channel was visible from Avenue Barramar, where many people usually run or even ride their bikes on the bike lane. Some young people also chose this avenue to walk and chat. Almost half an hour later, Luan arrived at Barramar Avenue. Because he looked so young and beautiful, he drew a lot of attention from the passing girls. Some were still teenagers, which made them blush while looking at him. Some bolder women purposely tried to show a little more skin, trying to win his attention. Luan, on the other hand, was focused on finding the meteor. He had no time for nonsense and was so engrossed by his search that he didn't even notice he had become the center of attention. My God, what a piece of ass, a teenager commented to her friends. I wish I could take him home with me. Another teenager was even more daring. To do what with? Watch and do nothing. Another girl scoffed and they all started laughing. Although she was only blowing smoke, the girl was embarrassed and said, trying to look mature, of course I wasn't just going to look. I was going to ravish him all over. Ha ha ha. Don't make me laugh. You're just a virgin. Hearing this comment from the other teenager, the group of teenagers walking and talking started to laugh collectively. As for the conversation of these girls, Luan listened and smiled a little. He recalled that in his past life this had happened many times, especially when he became a cultivator, which made his appearance more manly and attractive, although he became sexually impotent in the process. When he remembered that, Luan's smile turned a little sour, but soon he sighed and knew that this time he wouldn't make the same mistake. A woman with beautiful black hair and light skin with green eyes suddenly approached Luan. Her face was exquisite and she was also quite tall, with an estimated height of 170 centimeters. Her legs were thin and long. Hey handsome, would you like my contact information? I promise you the most wonderful experience that you will never forget in your entire life. Her voice was sweet, but her comment made Luan frown. No thank you. Luan said nonchalantly and left immediately. Even the girls who were talking about Luan earlier were surprised that Luan had rejected this beautiful woman. After all, which man would reject this sort of request from such a sexy and very beautiful woman? Luan continued to wander near the sea and tried to detect any Type 3 metal energy. Barramar Avenue averaged approximately 3,900 meters along its entire length. Luan, in turn, had already walked a little over 1,000 meters. And so far he hadn't felt any strange energy yet. The reason he wanted this Type 3 metal so badly was very simple. If he found a piece that could make at least one dagger, he would have a weapon with third-order attack power. This was equivalent to the strength of 150 men. And if he was even more lucky, he could find a piece big enough to make a sword or at least a short sword, which would be very advantageous for any setback he might encounter. Although after the Third Awakening this material was not very difficult to come across, in the time in which he was currently living it was very rare. He still remembered that a few hidden sects and clans had weapons made of Type 3 materials. Furthermore, the strongest were only a few, in the second and third order. As far as Luan knew, these were the highest current powerhouses. While walking through the cold night, Luan received some catcalls coming from some more daring women. Some just said things like, "Hi kitty. Gorgeous, do you have a girlfriend? Can I walk with you?" etc. Luan was not ignorant about these girls who hit on him, but he treated all of them with disinterest. After all, he wasn't there to get a date or something else with a woman. At the present time he already had a girl in mind, so he was not willing to deceive these girls, giving them hope of one day being able to date him. When Luan had already walked more than 3,000 meters and was about to give up, his senses detected a strange energy. He soon became excited about it and moved towards the source of this strange energy. Chapter 19. The Fool. When he detected strange energy, although he was not sure, Luan thought it would be the Type 3 metal meteor. The chances of his being right were almost 90%. As he walked towards the strange energy he was feeling, Luan saw that it was coming from inside the sea. It would not be good if they saw me entering the sea. If he entered the water and was seen by other people at this time of night on a cold day, it was possible that this would be misinterpreted. This is why Luan blurred the attention of the people who looked towards him to a red Ferrari not far away and rose from the sight of those people. At that moment, Luan was already walking on the beach, heading towards the sea. Because it was dark, aside from the moonlight, it was difficult to see him, even without the ability he used to blur people's attention whenever they looked in his direction. It was as if he was invisible to them, but in reality, they were simply deceived and only noticed the reflection of the moon in the sea. It's getting stronger. I'm sure something with a lot of energy is in the sea. Taking off his shirt and cell phone, he left them at the edge of the sea, then he waded in. Luan had a very strong body and managed to hold his breath for a long time. Currently, he would be able to stay underwater without breathing for almost 3 hours with ease. Swimming, Luan felt with his senses the strange energy getting stronger and stronger. He continued swimming, going further and deeper into the sea. While swimming, with his improved vision thanks to cultivating, Luan was still able to see and saw a lot of fish swimming around him. When he moved his hands and feet to swim, the fish moved away from him a little. I'm close. Luan felt that there was very little to find, and looking in the direction of the strange energy he was feeling, Luan determined that the meteorite was buried, or it was one of those rocks with slime that he was approaching. Touching the stones at the bottom of the sea, Luan felt a strange energy in one of these stones. He took the stone that was covered with slime and rubbed his hand on it, pushing the slime away. That was when the emerald green color came out. As I imagined, it is a Type 3 metal meteorite and of excellent quality. In addition, this should weigh 4 to 5 kilos. That will be enough to create 2 swords. Luan was very excited, and holding the Type 3 metal in one of his hands, which the metal was almost the size of a bowling ball, he started to swim back towards the shallows. When the water was below his neck, Luan started walking towards where his shirt and cell phone were laying. Out of the water, Luan used his chi to dry his body. Then he put his t-shirt back on and took out his cell phone and saw that he had a message on his WhatsApp. __. Mother. Son, there are 2 secretarial vacancies available in Florianopolis and another is here in Juror Internacional as my secretary. I have already seen Ingred's resume and I am willing to accept her as my personal secretary. Talk to her and let me know what she decides. 2046. Mother. In fact, I looked on the internet and saw that in Florianopolis it is quite cold, close to 10 degrees and it can get colder in the middle of the night. Don't forget to use a blanket at bedtime to avoid catching a cold. Good night. 2047. Underscore underscore. A smile formed on Luan's face when he saw these messages. He saw that it was now 2056 and thought, it's still early, I'll send her a message. Underscore underscore. Luan. Okay mom, I'm going to talk to her tomorrow and I'll tell you what her response will be. And you needn't worry, I'm well wrapped up. 2057. Mother. Good. I wait for good news tomorrow. Good night. 2057. Luan. Good night mom. 2057. Underscore underscore. After that, Luan kept his cell phone in his pocket, and using an optical illusion, he remained invisible to anyone looking in his general direction. He then walked off the beach and walked down the avenue, heading towards the Dallas hotel. While walking on the avenue, he was no longer imperceptible, however, he drew attention from the onlookers who were looking at his hand, making them think it was a bowling ball, rather than from his looks. On the way, Luan passed a poorly lit street that was up a small hill. As he walked, Luan frowned when a man in his 40s, 181 centimeters tall, wearing a black hat and black clothes, was running towards him and pulled out a hunting knife. Die. The man, all in black, shouted, trying to stab the knife in Luan's face. Although he didn't know what was wrong with this man's brain, Luan remained calm and easily dodged. He still had time to touch just one finger on the man before continuing to walk towards the top of the hill. Ah, what is happening? The man who tried to stab Luan started screaming very loudly in pain. His white skin turned pink until it was blood red. His screams got louder, and he no longer saw Luan's whereabouts. He felt as if his blood was bubbling, and it started to feel itchy. On his skin, red bubbles appeared and burst, spreading blood across his body. When scratching his skin, he saw it peel off as if he was peeling from being in the sun for a long time, but the situation was worse, since not just a thin layer of skin came out, but rather, it was to the point where his bone appeared. Due to the man's screams, many people took to the street to see what was going on, and when they saw the man's condition, most of them started to vomit. Only a few still managed to keep from vomiting and called 911. My God, what's going on with this man? Mercy, that's the devil's work. I feel like I'm going to have a nightmare when I close my eyes. Is this some kind of drug? My beloved father. Before anyone knew it, there were already more than 10 people watching this scene. It was just a few minutes after the emergency began, but when they tried to get closer, the bubbles in the man's body started to burst even faster and the blood was splashing out. Andre, you are wearing protective clothing. Come over and see what you can do. A nurse in a white coat said to another nurse in protective clothing. Okay. Andre nodded and approached. But when he got in front of the man was already foaming at the mouth and his eyes were white. Although the bubbles on his body continued to burst, he was no longer breathing and had no pulse. He is dead. What horrible thing is this? I've never seen anything like it in my life. Andre was incredulous. The current state of this man was very unnatural. We are going to put him on the stretcher and take him to the hospital, said a doctor who was in the ambulance car. Asterisk. Almost half an hour ago, Luan returned to his suite at the Dallas hotel. He held the Type 3 metal meteorite while sanding away with some sandpaper he found in the bathroom drawer. After polishing it a little, the emerald green color of the Type 3 metal was noticeable. Although Luan wanted to start making a weapon for himself with this material, he knew it would be very difficult without first cultivating with a chi technique. Thanks to his body technique, Luan could control the chi of what was around him and his body, but with a chi technique, he would be able to generate his own chi. With that, he could generate fire through his chi and melt the Type 3 metal much more easily. In addition, Luan needed a more appropriate place to do this. The ideal for him would be to do this when he returned to Juror Internacional and returned to the workshop he has in his house. After polishing the emerald green Type 3 metal, Luan took it to his room and kept it in the wardrobe at the bottom. With a salty smell of the sea, Luan went to take a shower soon after. Chapter 20. Christina Orland, the Madwoman. As promised, Ingrid showed up the next morning. Good morning, Luan, Ingrid said with a smile the moment Luan opened the door for her. Good morning. Please, come in, Luan asked. Have you eaten yet? Not yet. Ingrid came inside and said, I took a shower and came right here. I see. I made breakfast. Come and eat with me, Luan invited her. Yes. Nodding, Ingrid went to the living room with him. Eating bread with ham and cheese, Luan, after chewing what he was eating, asked, how was your night? Did you sleep well? Yes, Very well. My mother, however, almost couldn't sleep because she was so happy. Ingrid's smile when she answered was genuinely beautiful. I see. I'm happy to hear that. Luan smiled a little and went back to eating his sandwich. Did you miss me? Ingrid almost wanted to hide in a hole at the thought of asking this to Luan. Her skin tone turned pink as shame consumed her. She remained silent for the next 3 minutes while eating with small bites. Ah yes, my mother texted me yesterday, and she said she has 2 vacancies available to work as a secretary. One here in Florianopolis and the other in Juror Internacional as her secretary. Luan mentioned what he remembered. This. Ingrid was thoughtful. She looked at Luan, then looked down, and then looked at Luan again and said, "Can I answer sometime this afternoon?" No problem. Luan agreed. Good morning, Florianopolis. Good morning, Brazil. We are the starting news for the morning. It is 7 hours and 1 minute. In the living room, there was a 52-inch television Ingrid and Luan watched while eating. News of the day. And the bus drivers' strike continues. Killed in the streets of Beramar, Jorge, the serial killer, was found dead by residents of Beramar. He was found with strange injuries all over his body. Serial killer. Luan looked at the news and saw the photos that were taken and soon he recognized the man. Oh, and to think that a serial killer would have such an end, Ingrid commented casually, for being such a brutal death, it is almost like an act of revenge. It was not, Luan confessed, without bothering to hide the truth. This man tried to kill me yesterday with a knife, and the rest is easy to guess what happened. Ingrid didn't feel bad about hearing this. She even sarcastically commented, what a most unlucky man. He must have thought you were just one of his victims, but I bet he didn't expect himself to be the one killed Tilda. Yesterday I felt negative energy coming from him. Now, I know why. For Luan, who lived many hundreds of years in his past life, it was easy for him to feel negative energy from someone, especially since he had a greater sensitivity to negative energy. After they finished eating, Luan was going to take the dishes to the sink and then wash them, but Ingrid said, "Let me do this." Yesterday you did it, remember? Luan didn't think much and nodded, "Okay." Ingrid smiled and started washing the dishes. Luan took the initiative to dry. After brushing their teeth and changing clothes, Ingrid and Luan were now in the training room. With smooth and precise movements, the two began to train. It was almost 3 hours that Luan spent while practicing his next technique. Steam from heat waves was coming out of his body once he stopped. Luan sat on the floor with his legs crossed and started to meditate. After starting to meditate with the less than divine, spiritual body greater than technique, a heat wave burst inside his stomach instantly and immediately merged into his limbs and skeleton. It then flowed through his pores, as well as his blood and his limbs, causing a flow of heat to explode from his entirety. For sure, Luan was gaining many benefits by strengthening his body and soul. There is very little left for me to do before I break the strength limit of 25 men. Luan told himself as he meditated and calculated his current strength. Luan continued to meditate until almost 1 p.m. Ingrid had already finished meditating before him and was preparing lunch. Luan got up and saw that even though it was only a little, impurities were removed from his body through his pores. He then walked to the bathroom to shower. He also noticed he managed to break his limit, reaching the strength of 25 ordinary men. Ingrid, on the other hand, reached the strength of 18 ordinary men. Although the difference between her and Luan was great, it was a big step forward for her considering that Ingrid didn't have the experience that Luan did. When it was close to 5 p.m., Ingrid decided, "Luan, I'm going to Juror Internacional." "That's great," Luan replied with a small smile. Asterisk. It was 5:30 p.m. and Ingrid returned to her and her mother's house. Luan did not stay at the hotel. He went out to see if he could find other rare materials. Although the chances were low for other people, Luan had a very good set of senses, so the chances of him finding something that was not discovered were much greater. Wearing a red polo neck t-shirt, jeans shorts, and blue sports shoes, Luan walked aimlessly. He intended to walk near more isolated places such as near the farthest sea and places dominated by bush that was uncared for. Of course, Luan was not being optimistic. He knew that this trip could very well be in vain. But that did not stop him from trying. After all, only those who play the lottery win. If one never plays, one can't complain if they don't win. Walking on the sidewalk, Luan saw different people passing him whether they came from work, school, the market, shops, etc. Luan saw someone he didn't even dream of meeting so soon. That girl is. A girl 14 to 15 years old with tan skin and red hair with honey-colored eyes looked very sad and depressed as she walked along the path coming from a nearby school. It's her, I'm sure. But how could she be here? Luan couldn't help but be surprised when he spotted the girl. Christina Orland was an extraordinary person in Luan's past life, many knew her story. She grew up and was raised to become the sacrifice of the Zing clan that emigrated to Brazil. There were no records of exactly where she lived in Brazil, but everyone knew of her story, butchering the entire Zing clan when she awoke her powers in the Third Awakening. Because of this, she was known as Christina Orland the Madwoman. She is one of the few people in Brazil who made it to the Sixth Order. Should I try to recruit her? Luan contemplated the option in front of him. Chapter 21. Disciple. Christina Orland felt like she was being watched, but that was something that was often due to the old clothes she wore, so she didn't think much about it. She kept walking, and the sadness only got stronger since she was never treated well at home. In her family she had a sister who was 2 years older and a father, mother, grandmother, and grandfather. They all lived in a mansion in the Zing clan, but Christina had to live in the mansion's basement since she had an obligation to keep the mansion clean. Her parents, grandparents, and sister always looked for reasons to attack her psychologically and even physically, although whenever she was beaten, they were in places that were hardly visible. And the people of the clan kept bullying her verbally, sometimes physically. Christina knew that she couldn't go against them, since even if she went to the police, the situation only got worse because her family was rich with 20 million in assets. Only once at the age of 12 did she try to denounce the abuse she suffered, and in the end, things only got worse for her. She still had nightmares about her father drowning her in the pool and putting a plastic bag over her head until she passed out. After that, she stopped believing in human rights and tried to act as obedient as possible to avoid being tortured again. Sometimes, she thought of taking her own life and ending it all. When she was isolated and forced to stop going to school, she tried to kill herself, and since then, she has been able to go back to school. Suddenly, when she arrived at a mostly deserted street, a male voice came from behind, making Christina turn. Why are you so sad, girl? Seeing the beautiful man with white hair and red eyes talking to her, Christina was unresponsive for a few seconds. Composing herself, Christina did not answer, but asked, do I know you? My name is Luan Dimas, and I'm interested in having you as my disciple. Luan approached and asked her, would you be interested? Before Christina could answer, from the roof of a house 2 men appeared in front of Christina. Get away from her. One of the men, dressed in black, said warningly. Boy, you must be daydreaming if you think you can take someone from the Zing clan as a disciple. Even if this girl is useless, we cannot let her embarrass herself by accepting trash as a teacher, the other man said dismissively. He looked at Luan as if he were looking only at an ant that he could squash at any time. Seeing that Luan stood there looking indifferently at them infuriated the 2 men, and the first man who had spoken before, shouted as he slapped his palm towards Luan, I told you to go away. Flames broke out from the man's palm as he attacked. Christina, who saw this, shouted, watch out. Luan remained indifferent and did not even try to dodge. Instead, he leaned his right arm back a little and launched forward with a stroke using the palm of his hand. Humph. The man dressed in black scoffed when he saw that it was just a normal attack. But his incredulous expression changed when Luan's attack came into contact with him. With the sound of bones cracking, the man was sent back as he spun in the air. When he fell to the ground, the bones of the black-clad man's arm were outside his skin, tearing it off his arm as blood dripped to the ground without stopping. Ah! The man screamed in pain, while the other, who was looking before at Luan in an arrogant way, now gazed at him with fear. Amazing. Christina rubbed her eyes, not believing what she was seeing. She was not surprised that the man in black was able to manifest flames, since the Zing clan had supernatural powers that could control fire, but she was shocked that Luan could make the man in black fly away with just one attack and break the arm of the man in such a hideous way. Let's talk. It looks like we have a misunderstanding here, said the other man, shaking his hands frantically, not wanting to confront Luan. He now realized that he was dealing with someone he could not provoke. The other man, who was moaning in pain on the floor, pretended he was losing consciousness and called his clan. He knew that it would take more than just him and his partner to be able to deal with this man with white hair and red eyes. In addition, the 2 knew of the importance that Christina held, so they could not allow Luan to take her. Luan continued to stare at the man without saying a single word. Just because Luan was indifferent while examining him, the man trembled with fear. If he had the chance, he wanted to run. Luan looked away from the man and looked at Christina. Christina, right. As I said before, I want to take you as my disciple. If you accept, you can start living in my house and train to become someone strong enough to never be abused again. How do you know that I'm being abused? Christina asked in surprise. I don't need anyone to tell me to know. My senses are a little special and I can feel your sadness, but I also see a lot of potential in you, so I want to take you as my disciple, Luan said and invited her to be his disciple again. You are mistaken, she shook her head and said sadly, tears in her honey-colored eyes. I've always been judged for not having talent. My whole family says I don't do anything, I can't believe it. Luan's serious eyes made her want to believe him when he said, your family doesn't see what I see. I'm going to give you one more chance. Do you want to become my disciple? Christina was not moved by this. Although she wanted to believe, she already saw the bad side of people. She had trouble trusting someone, but at least she knew that if this handsome boy wanted to take her by force, he could do it very easily. Christina closed her eyes tight and thought, I'm going to trust someone just this time. I accept, she said as soon as she opened her eyes. Luan already seemed to know that she was going to accept, so he looked at the man who did not dare to say a single word and said indifferently, go back to your clan and say that Christina will be in my care. Soon I will pay a visit and cut off all her connections with your clan. Yes, I will do that. The man in black did not dare to question Luan. He took a few steps back and went to the other man and helped him to his feet. He whispered, let's go back quickly. There are a lot of powerful people in the Xing clan. Are you sure about this? Christina looked at Luan and seemed uneasy as she asked. I'm sure. Luan gestured for her to follow him. Let's go to where I am staying at the moment, and then we can talk better. I hope I'm making the right choice. Christina took a deep breath and started to follow Luan. Luan, who intended to try to find rare stones and plants, ended up recruiting a disciple and had to change his plans. Of course, he didn't regret it in the least. Christina Orland was an incredible woman in his past life, one with many achievements. When they arrived at the Dallas Hotel, Samantha, who was the receptionist on duty, was surprised to see Luan with a young girl of around 15 years. But she didn't think he was going to commit a crime, and she knew he was someone she couldn't provoke. But even so, she thought about paying extra attention and noticing if the girl was being forced to follow Luan. Even if she put her life at risk, she would call the police if she noticed something strange. When she arrived at the suite, Christina couldn't help but be amazed. The suite was very chic and very modern. Even the door was opened by a card instead of a key. You can leave your backpack on the table and sit on the couch, Luan said as he returned from the kitchen with a bottle of juice and 2 glasses. Filling the 2 glasses with the juice, he drank and said, you can drink, it's not poisoned. Thanks. Christina was feeling uneasy, but she was really a little thirsty and ended up drinking some orange juice. Luan now looked at her seriously. Tell me, how much do you know about the supernatural? Christina swallowed the juice in her mouth and said as she sat on the couch, not much. I just know that some special humans can get supernatural powers, just like the Xing clan that controls fire. Another question, Luan asked, why do you think those 2 men who were able to control fire were watching you? Christina's brain collapsed a little with this question, but she soon realized that this was very strange. After all, she was just a normal girl and was always excluded and despised by the Xing clan. I don't know. I thought if you were as useless as they made you appear to be, why would they put 2 people like that to watch over you? Luan persisted in his questioning. They don't want me to run off. Christina's heart was beating very fast. She began to think there was something very wrong in this situation. Exactly. Why would they go so far? Luan joined his hands while asking, or rather, why didn't they just isolate you at home? When they did that, I tried to kill myself and that was why my parents allowed me to go back to school. The strangest thing was my sister, who never showed affection for me, cried horribly at the thought that I had died and made me promise not to try again to take my life. Christina thought she was getting closer and closer to the truth. She felt scared and at the same time anxious to find out the real reason this all happened. Do you think she did it out of kindness? That she did it because she loves you? Luan continued with his questions. Absolutely not. I could clearly see that she was terrified. It was as if I was something precious, but not as a person, something like an object, but I'm not sure. My mom and dad were the same. They didn't seem concerned with me, but with something different, as if my life had some other purpose. Christina felt like she was having a revelation. Exactly that. Your life has a purpose for them, and that is. Chapter 22. Unwanted Visit. Luan did not continue what he was going to say, but asked another question. Before I say their reason for how they've treated you, can you tell me your current age? What day and month do you have a birthday? Although she was confused by this question, Christina answered since she wanted to know the reason for her family's treatment of her. I am 14 years old and was born on June 15th. Single quote. On the day of the third awakening. I don't know if she was very lucky in her past life or unlucky. Luan was genuinely surprised. Let me tell you a story about a clan that lived in Iceland. Without waiting for Christina's answer, Luan started to tell his tale. The clan was called Ling. Although they were very reserved and didn't interact much with other people, they were by all accounts normal people. However, over time, people began to suspect otherwise, since many teenagers from their clan died suddenly at the age of 15. Christina's eyes filled with tears when she heard this because she started to remember a certain friend she had who died when she was 15 years old when she had undergone the baptism of fire. Luan continued to speak. Due to the level of security in Iceland, I was beginning to investigate this clan. They fled the country and migrated to another one, and changed the clan's name to Zing. But now the question comes. Why did so many 15-year-olds die, accidentally, and what did all these teenagers have in common? Christina already knew that he was talking about her clan, and she herself began to find strange what happens in the Zing clan. She then replied, they all had an older sibling. Excellent, you're right. They all had a sibling a few years older or even a few months. Luan said, now why did these teenagers die when they turned 15? Think. What happens to the teenagers of Clan Zing when they turn 15? The teenagers of the Zing clan go through the baptism of fire to know if they will awaken the power to control the fire or not. Christina had already discovered almost everything. Because of that, she was crying. While saying, but, some don't survive the baptism and end up dying, and they all have older siblings and were not loved by their family, just like me. I'll wait for you to calm down before continuing, Luan said in a gentle tone. He knew that what he was going to say next would shock Christina even more. However, he thought it was necessary for her to know this. Christina nodded and started wiping her tears as she took a deep breath. She was somehow afraid to hear what he had to say, but even so, she wanted to hear it. A few minutes later, Luan had already given her a face towel for her tears and returned to sit in front of her. Christina said, I'm fine now. You can continue. Luan then continued in a serious tone, at the time of fire baptism when the teenager receives their powers, he or she is killed by their older sibling. That's because if they do that, they'll be given all the power to control their younger sibling's fire. Christina's mind went blank. She felt that it all made sense now. Her family's despair when she tried to kill herself, and her friend's brother having become so powerful and being recognized as a genius in the Zing clan. It all started to make sense to her. So, I am a sacrifice. I was raised to be a sacrifice and give my sister my powers. Christina started to cry loudly. She was unable to contain her tears. However much she was judged by her family, she had still hoped that at least they liked her a little. Luan sat next to her and hugged her comfortingly, letting her cry with the entirety of her heart. Christina, who hugged Luan back tightly, gradually began to calm down while sniffling. She stepped away from Luan and asked, can I use the bathroom? Yes, it is the first door on the left just down the hall, Luan replied. Thanks. She got up and walked towards the bathroom. In the bathroom, in front of the mirror, Christina washed her face and forced herself to calm down. She was still in shock at what she found out. Of course, she didn't doubt Luan's words, as everything started to make sense to her. Asterisk. Juror Internacional. Dimas Corporation. Talk. Asterisk. Come in. President Mera, a man named Leon Becker is asking to come in and said he has something important to talk with you about. A woman wearing a gray suit with a white t-shirt underneath and a black skirt that went to her knee announced. Mera was a 179 centimeters tall woman, with green eyes, a slim body with long legs, and above-average breasts. She wore a formal purple skirt that showed off her pretty legs and purple suit. Her hair was a loose, wavy dark brown that stretched to the middle of her back. Okay, you can let him in, Mera glanced at the secretary and said nonchalantly. Minutes later a tall man, 190 centimeters tall, with a well-shaved beard with short blonde hair and light brown eyes, entered Mera Dimas's office while wearing an elegant black suit and holding a bouquet of white flowers. What is the reason for coming here this time? Mara asked contemptuously as she raised her right eyebrow. Don't be like that, my love. I just came to talk, Leon Becker said hoarsely. Love, ha ha ha. Are you trying to mock me? Mara scorned. I was never your love and I never will be. What happened between you and me was just me naively believing the wrong man when I was young. But something good came out of this, since I have two amazing kids, which is why I haven't kicked you out of my office yet. I've changed. I'm not the same anymore. I only left because I was scared, but now it's different. I want to help raise our children and I want to marry you, Leon Becker said pitifully. Hey, I've heard this from you before. Mara pretended to disdainfully say, ah yes, that was when you found out that I was heir to Dimas Corp. Am I right? Leon Becker already knew his plan was going to be difficult, but he couldn't help but tighten his grip around the white flower bouquet he had brought with him. He looked at Mara angrily but soon tried to hide it by putting on a pitiful look. It wasn't like that. I just realized my mistake too late and now it's no different. I love you. Seriously, you need to believe me and give another chance for our love. Mara massaged herself between her eyebrows and said, tired of hearing this irrational man, stop talking nonsense. There was never love between us, and it will never exist. I already said and I will repeat myself for the last time. I have no interest in you and neither do my children want to see you. If you're done, can you please go out, or do you want me to call security and help you find your way down the street? Leon Becker felt pressured and started talking nonstop. Damn Mara, you don't know the incredible man you're rejecting. I'm such a nice, caring man who would do anything for you, but you don't even give me a chance. All this, due to a small mistake I made in the past. Grow up. We are no longer children and I have changed. I am a more mature man who wants to bear the consequences and I want to marry you. Mara, are you really going to let an incredible and loving man, who would do anything for you, escape? If you do that, you'll never find a man like me again. You have no idea what you're missing. I am seeing very well what I am missing. Maria laughed and said sarcastically, but even if I don't get an amazing man like you, I won't be sorry. Now, get out. Do you despise me? Leon walked towards Mara, looking like a crazy bull. Take another step and let's see if I don't shoot you. Mara still remained calm, and from her desk drawer she took out a golden semi-automatic pistol and pointed it at Leon Becker with indifference. Cold sweat began to drain from Leon's body. He soon remembered when he investigated Mara's life, he discovered that Mara's father was a marshal in the army and from a young age had taught Mara to shoot. He did not doubt that she would do what she said she would do. Leon ended up stumbling back a few steps. You are crazy. Yes, now leave my office and never appear in front of me again, or else I am not responsible for what will happen to you. Oh yes, don't even think about trying to get close to or do something with my children, because if something happens to them, I swear on everything that is most sacred that I will kill you. Mara warned seriously. Leon Becker left Mara Dimas's office grumbling incessantly in anger. But he didn't dare say it out loud, because he was almost peeing his pants in fear. How foolish I once was. Mara blew out a tired breath as she remembered her youth. After, she put the pistol back in the drawer. Chapter 23. Young Master, Wagner Hamibo. Luan, where am I going to sleep and can I continue to go to school? Christina, who had come back from the bathroom, asked these questions as soon as she calmed down and started to think things over. There is a spare room that is used by a friend of mine, but she is not coming today. As for the school, I live in Juror International and I was thinking about transferring you to a school there. What do you think? Luan asked for her opinion. Okay then, but are you fine with doing all this for me? I mean, if I'm a sacrifice that will increase my sister's powers, I'm sure the clan's people will come after me. After all, my father is the patriarch's son and my sister is already considered a flame-controlled genius. Christina was a little uneasy when asking this question, she could only imagine the risks that Luan would go through just by bringing her under his protection. You don't have to worry about it too much. They cannot do anything against me and I have my means of discovering a lot of information from the Xing clan. Luan, who had a laptop placed on his lap, called her over to see what was appearing on the screen. Look at this. I have a lot of criminal records and information about the Xing clan. As much as they are powerful, they cannot go against the law. They can dodge some bullets, so to speak, but not a spray of bullets. On the screen, there were recordings of many conversations, even a video of one of the sacrifices that happened. If these things went public, the Xing clan would be over. So, do you intend to expose them? Christina asked. She was even more sure when she saw a video of a boy who turned 15 being killed on video. I have to say that they are very foolish to keep their actions on record, but I also have to agree that their level of security was good, Luan said. Although they may be arrested for this, they can still escape prosecution, especially the strongest among them. Therefore, I will not exhibit this now, since I'm still not strong enough yet. But after 2 months we can both have this conversation again. Why after 2 months? Christina asked, confused. Remember I said I was going to train you. By then, you will be strong enough to be able to protect yourself from any accident, and I will also be strong enough not to let something bad happen to you or my family, Luan explained. He was aware that if he were to act extreme now, he could end up hurting someone he loves. For this reason, he would not do something without thinking straight. He was, after all, someone who went through several situations and determined that of the choices he had, the best route was to strengthen first and then attack. Asterisk. At that very moment, the Xing clan received an email amid a discussion on how to recover Christina Orland. However, when the patriarch saw the email, he felt his legs go limp, and fear and anger crept onto his face. Narfi Orland, the father of Christina Orland, was a 179 centimeters tall man and had red hair. He peered at his father's laptop screen and also saw the message that had all the information about what their clan was doing illegally. Together, there was a warning for them to leave Christina alone and not try to go after her, otherwise, everything would be exposed. Dad, do you believe it could be someone from her real mother's family? Narfi asked, stuttering. How could it be? I'm sure her entire family was wiped out by us. Unner, patriarch of the Xing clan and Narfi's father, said with uncertainty, but it may be that some relative of that woman lived in another country and came back to receive the news of the extermination of the family, and apparently he is someone powerful, since with just one punch he broke the arm of one of our guards. Damn it. That damned dead woman is still causing trouble. Naren Orland's wife Tina cursed. She hated Christina Orland's real mother and had killed her with her own hands, overjoyed that the daughter of that damn woman was going to be nutritious for her beloved daughter's development. Calm down. Patriarch Unner managed to calm the room down a little and said out loud, let's do what he said, let's not go after Christina without knowing exactly who we're dealing with. We have to get as much information on him as possible. Yes. The people of the Xing clan who knew how serious this situation was nodded in unison. Just wait. You bitch. You won't escape. I need you in order to get stronger. Haldora, Christina Orland's older sister, cursed strongly in her mind. Asterisk. Florianopolis International Airport, Hercelio Luz. Where does the young master want to go first? A man wearing a black suit and sunglasses asked. Politely. Wagner Hamibo, heir to Hamibo Corp., wrinkled his nose and said sarcastically, first, let's go out and go to the hotel. Then, well, I want to pay a visit to my good old friend, Luan. Wagner was 180 centimeters tall with shoulder-length black hair with hints of dark brown. He wore black designer clothes. Yes, young master, the car is already prepared waiting for the young master, the man in the black suit and sunglasses, said politely. Asterisk. In the suite, Luan and Christina spent most of the rest of the time talking. Christina was completely surprised that in addition to being a very strong and wealthy person, Luan was able to hack the Xing clan, which had strong security. You are hungry. Luan looked at her. I. Gurgle tilde asterisk. Before Christina Orland could finish the sentence, her stomach growls made her face turn red. Wait a minute. I'll cook something for us to eat. Luan got up and walked towards the kitchen. Wearing a blue apron, he started cooking. Christina felt uneasy. She was not used to other people serving something to her. If she wanted to eat, she had to prepare it herself. She even thought there was something wrong in this situation and wanted to tell Luan that she was going to do it, but she was not confident of making something that would be able to satisfy someone else's taste. Minutes later, Luan returned with his preparations: rice, fried egg, Milanese meat, and mashed potatoes. Since you're hungry, I did something quickly, Luan said as he placed the pots on the dining table. For me, this is a luxury, said Christina. She could only make things like rice and dried meat, sometimes boiled or fried eggs, but the few times that she ate meat in her lifetime she could count on her fingers. Come, sit down and you can eat as much as you want. If you need more, I will prepare more, Luan told her, gently. Christina was happy in her heart because of the kindness that Luan had shown her. Thank you, this is more than enough. She was unceremonious as she started adding rice and a small piece of meat and a fried egg to her plate. Do you not like mashed potatoes? And you can take more meat. There's a lot, said Luan, motioning that she need not be shy. Quote. Thanks. Christina took a deep breath and took another piece of meat that was slightly larger than the previous one and also took some mashed potatoes. Luan was kind enough to take the glass cups and fill them with grape juice. If you are thirsty, you can feel free. Christina waved and thanked him again. Thank you. After carefully holding the fork in her right hand and the knife in her left hand, Christina cut a piece of meat and ate it with some rice and mashed potatoes, leading her to another surprise. Without her noticing, tears streamed from her eyes. The food in her mouth was as soft as cotton. However, unlike cotton, the softness had an elasticity to it. Just from the texture alone, she felt a spectacular sensation in her mouth. Is it bad? Why are you crying? Luan asked, carefully. She stammered, swallowing her food so she wouldn't choke. No. It's very good. However, I've never eaten anything this good before. I don't know what happened, but my tears started to fall on their own. I'm sorry. I am relieved that it was to your liking. Moreover, you need not apologize for that. Luan smiled gently and handed her a washcloth. Here, use this. Thanks. Nodding, she took the washcloth and used it to wipe away her tears. Taking a few deep breaths, Christina glanced at Luan, surprised that he was such a good cook. What she didn't know was that Luan was just an above-average cook, she just wasn't used to eating good food. Then Christina opened her mouth and took the glass of grape juice and took a small sip. The meal was just rice, mashed potatoes, Milanese steak, and fried eggs, but it allowed Christina to feel like she had eaten a sumptuous and extravagant meal. In addition to the wonderful taste, a feeling of satisfaction and happiness appeared inside her. This in turn relieved her sadness and helped her feel much better. Neither of them rushed dinner and finally finished after 25 minutes. Wait here. I'll go out and be right back, Luan told her. For anything else the girl might need, Luan figured in going out to buy some things again tomorrow when Ingrid had returned. Here are some clothes. Luan handed the bag to Christina. Christina held the bag, surprised. She didn't expect him to go out and buy her clothes. Thank you. Of course, Luan nodded and said, you can use the bathroom to bathe. There are towels in the closet and among those clothes, there are pajamas that you can use to sleep. Tomorrow I will start with your training, okay? Yes. Christina nodded excitedly. Asterisk. The next morning, it was March 1, 2010. Ingrid arrived early at the Dallas hotel and felt strange due to the pitying looks Samantha the receptionist was giving her. When she reached the door to the suite, she rang the bell. Luan opened the door and Ingrid entered. What she beheld in the living room left her petrified. Luan. Who is this girl? Chapter 24. Embarrassment. Luan went straight to the point. Her name is Christina Orland and I accepted her as my disciple. Christina Orland was wearing gym clothes that Luan bought for her yesterday. She didn't look as miserable now as she did in her old clothes that looked more like rags, and after taking a shower, one could see that she was a pretty girl with red hair and greenish-brown eyes. Christina looked at Ingrid and was surprised by her beauty, and then she felt restless, since Christina didn't know if she would be well accepted by this beautiful woman who seemed to be her master's girlfriend. Approaching, standing in front of Christina, the beautiful lady said with a friendly smile, "Hello, my name is Ingrid Anjos. Nice to meet you, Christina." "It's my pleasure," Christina said with a shy smile. She was not used to other people being kind to her. "Christina will participate in our training starting today," said Luan. "Some things happened and Christina will live here in the suite for now. As to what happened, it will depend on whether she wants to tell or not." Ingrid nodded. She already imagined by the tone of Luan's voice that it couldn't be something simple. "I don't mind telling, but can it be later?" Christina asked. "Yes, take your time," Ingrid said with a gentle smile. Minutes later, the three of them had breakfast and went to the training room together. It was a spacious training room. Looking around, it looked similar to a gym. As Luan was getting ready to start training, he looked sideways in Christina's direction and said calmly, "I'm going to teach you a body training technique. This body technique will help you to enter the corporal foundation realm. Once you do that, I'll give you a new technique that will help you move forward in greater steps." Seeing that Christina nodded, he continued with the explanation. Corporal foundation is separated into 3 stages. The initial stage goes from 5 times stronger than an ordinary man, up to 10 times stronger. Average stage goes from 11 to 19 times stronger than an ordinary man, and finally the upper stage is 20 to 30 times stronger than an ordinary man. "I understand," Christina said. "They didn't have that in the Xing clan. They just had techniques that trained and improved the flames, but not the body." Well, this is common, since the technique for training the body is rarer and more difficult to train. As the years have passed, many have given up on body techniques. Luan said confidently, but don't think you are inferior, since I will be teaching you. Yes. Christina nodded happily. Okay. I'm going to teach you 9 moves. You need to perform these movements as perfectly as possible because it influences how quickly you will be able to strengthen yourself. In addition, it has a mantra that is used when meditating after training the movements, Luan warned. I will say the mantra now. Even though it is small, I want you to pay close attention. Yes. Christina got even more serious. Luan then started to recite the mantra to her. Okay. I'll say it again. See if you haven't forgotten anything. When Luan finished reciting the second time, he asked, did you manage to memorize everything? Yes, but can I spend 10 minutes reciting to myself, so I don't forget? Christina asked seriously. Yes, take all the time you need, Luan replied. When you finish, let me know so I can teach you the technique's movements. Okay. Luan, I'm going to change and I'll be right back, said Ingred, before leaving. Luan was organizing and calculating the estimated time that their training would last now that he had 3 people practicing and determined that they would require another 5 to 6 days. However, it would be enough for him to get done what he wanted to do, and then he could go help his family. After thinking, Luan took his laptop and started typing some codes, creating programs that he intended to use on a website. Luan aimed to create a website for supernatural people. On the website he would sell items that he himself would create. Everything would be done confidentially. He had technological knowledge from almost 1,000 years in the future. Doing this was quite simple, however, it took a while, since he did not want to leave any gaps in the programming. Finally, he would need the help of his mother to create a delivery agency throughout Brazil, and when his business grew even more, he wanted to expand to foreign countries. Luan needed a lot of money to prepare for the third awakening that was getting closer and closer to happening, and the easiest way to achieve this was mainly by selling pills. Ingrid came back. Seeing Luan busy, she started to exercise the movements of her technique. A few minutes later, Christina finished memorizing the technique's mantra completely, and seeing that Luan was busy, she waited patiently. Finishing creating the program, Luan stopped typing and saw that Christina had already finished doing what she had been doing. Finished. Seeing her nod, he placed the laptop on the table not far away and said, now I will show you the 9 movements. Just as I did with the mantra, I will repeat it twice. Pay close attention. Christina didn't even blink when she watched Luan perform the technique's movements. She at first thought it was easy, but when she tried it later, she found it harder than it seemed. Over time she got used to it and made the movements more precise. Luan, seeing this, began training as well. Around noon, Christina broke the limit, being now 2 times stronger than an ordinary human. For her who had just started, it was a big step forward. In addition, she felt very much like using the bathroom. Seeing that Luan and Ingrid were still meditating, she couldn't wait any longer and ran towards the bathroom. As much as she tried not to make too much noise, the moment she sat down in the restroom, loud sounds echoed through the room. Christina turned so red, it could be mistaken for a ripe tomato. Oh my god, oh my god. Christina didn't know what was happening to her body. The smell was so strong that it made her blush with embarrassment. She couldn't stand for Luan or Ingrid to see this. After finishing, she saw that from her body, there was something black and gooey that was expelled. Biting her bottom lip, she closed the door, turned on the shower, and started to wash while still wearing her clothes, as they were also dirty. Then she took off her clothes and hung them in the bathroom stall and continued to shower since the smell still persisted on her body. As soon as she finished taking a shower, she took cleaning products and started cleaning the toilet. In the bathroom sink, she washed the clothes she wore before since they still smelled bad. It's all clean, but how am I going to explain all this? Christina thought with both hands on her pink cheeks. My god, I'm so ashamed. Leaving the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, Christina went to the bedroom where she slept and kept her clothes, and wore a white and gray casual outfit. Then she went to the living room and waited for Luan and Ingrid, not knowing how to tell them what had happened. It was close to 1 p.m. when Luan finished training and showered, after which he went to the living room and saw Christina looking at him completely flushed from head to toe. What happened to her? He wondered. Chapter 25. A mistake that can change someone's life. Is everything alright? Luan asked as he sat across from her and waited for her to speak. Christina sighed and admitted, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to me, but I got a lot of stomach pain and ended up. Well, I let a lot of things out and I also got my clothes on that I was wearing sweaty, that somehow then became dark and gooey. I showered and washed everything, but I'm still very embarrassed and I think I owe an apology for all this. Oh, that. Luan raised his eyebrow and his expression became soft when he said, "It was my mistake to not warn you that this could happen. I just didn't expect you to be able to break the limit of your body on the first day, so you don't need to be sorry. It is I who owes you an apology." No, no, the master does not have to ever apologize. Christina shook her hands hastily, not wanting to blame her master and savior. Luan smiled a little at her reaction and explained, "The moment you broke the limit of your body naturally cleansed, removing impurities. And as it was through a body foundation technique, the effect was more effective, thus being removed through the feces and also expelling the impurities from your pores. But usually, it's not that much, just at the beginning there's a lot of impurity in the body." I understand. Thanks for explaining, Master. Christina was relieved to hear Luan's explanation and smiled. Although she was still embarrassed, it was no longer as aggravating as before. Okay. Don't think about it too much. And you don't need to feel embarrassed. This is something normal while improving your body, as it will clean up the impurity. Luan then added, "Wait a minute. I will order food for us. In a little while, Ingrid will finish her training also." A fragrance swept over Luan when he entered his room. His eyes lit up when he looked again. When Luan arrived in the room, he saw the beautiful and charming Ingrid wearing a beige nightgown at the time. She held a hair dryer which she was using to dry her wet hair with her back to Luan while bowing slightly. "I borrowed the dryer from your room. Is that okay?" Ingrid turned toward him and smiled as she asked. "Yes, make yourself at home." Luan came out of his stupor and nodded. Then, he went to the television shelf where his cell phone was sitting, took it, and left. When Luan left, a smile formed on Ingrid's face. Luan's reaction did not go unnoticed by her. Then she left his room and went to wear more casual clothes. Luan, upon returning to the living room, called reception to order food. He had also already sent a message to his mother that Ingrid would go to Juror Internacional to be her secretary. Asterisk. The previous day, after leaving the airport near the Majestic Palace Hotel, Wagner Hamibo inside his Lamborghini suddenly said, "Stop. I saw something interesting just now." "Yes, young master." The driver went to the shoulder and stopped the car. In Wagner Hamibo's hand was a photo of Ingrid Anjos, and he was looking at a girl who was identical, if not her herself, walking alone on Florianopolis Street, and evil thoughts began to cross Wagner's mind. "Hey, pretty girl with blonde hair," Wagner shouted. "Me." The girl turned and pointed at herself. When Wagner saw her, he was even more sure it was her. He smiled elegantly and made a point of leaning on the yellow Lamborghini and said, "I noticed you, and I feel that I fell in love at first sight. What do you say? Do you want to take a walk with me and get to know each other better?" The girl was surprised by the proposal, and when she looked at the car, she almost drooled. And upon seeing the young man's expensive clothes, she pretended to be undecided. "I don't know. It's very late. Come on, it'll be fun. I'll take you home later." Wagner tried to convince her with these promises as he said them with a big smile. "Okay, but just one lap, you hear?" She pretended to just want to meet a new friend and not look selfish. "Yes, yes." Wagner smiled again and opened the door for her to enter. Come in." The next morning, Monica Anjos, who was mistaken for her sister, and ironically, when the man asked her name, she ended up saying it was Ingrid, ended up having sex with this young master. Even better, he didn't want to use a condom, and they had sex more than 4 times without protection. She even took a picture while he was sleeping and kept it well for later use as evidence. Monica was not a fool. She knew that this young master just wanted to have sex with her and then send her away. So before Wagner woke up, she left the Majestic Palace Hotel suite. She would get back in touch with him when 15 days passed. She wouldn't let him force her to use the morning after pill. She just hoped the heavens were on her side. Asterisk. Wagner, who easily was tired, woke up around noon, and not seeing Ingrid anywhere, he shouted, "Where is she?" He questioned his security guards, and they replied that she said that Wagner Hamibo had told her to leave. They believed it since it was an often recurring event. However, they did not imagine that this would make Wagner so furious. "Find her. I need her here and now," he demanded. He intended to take pictures and rub it in Luan's face, that he caught the girl Luan liked, but he didn't expect the girl to immediately leave the next morning. "I didn't use a condom." What if she gets pregnant? This was one of the fears he had, but it was not so great a concern for him, since for all the girls to which that happened, he forced them to abort. And as much as these girls cried and said they were going to raise their child on their own, even so, he got them to have an immediate abortion. Asterisk. 2 p.m. in Suite 916 at the Dallas Hotel. Luan, may I sleep here tonight? Ingrid asked with a strange smile. Yes, that's fine, but do you agree to share the room with Christina? After all, the suite only has 2 rooms. Luan looked at her and asked. I do not see a problem, Ingrid said and looked at Christina. Is it okay if we both share a room? Yes, I'd love to. Christina smiled, a little excited about what was happening. She had never slept in the same room as someone else before, and hearing Ingrid ask to share a room made her feel good. I'm leaving. Would you like to come along? Luan, who intended to go to Safari Garden, which sells rare plants and fruits, asked. Where are you going, Luan? Ingrid asked instead. I intend to go buy some rare plants and fruits, Luan replied. If I can, I want to go along. Christina was afraid to be alone if the people of the Zing clan would come after her. Okay. I'm going too. Ingrid made up her mind. Okay. I called reception. Sebastian is already waiting for us, said Luan. In addition, we can stop by a clothing store. Yesterday I bought her some clothes, but it's still not enough for Christina. In the Dallas Hotel garage, Luan, Ingrid, and Christina entered the black Phantom Rolls-Royce and Sebastian started driving. The store they were going to was almost 40 kilometers away. Because of that, it took a little over 40 minutes to arrive. Upon arrival, the store was very large, almost the size of a shopping mall, and at the front, it was surrounded by shop windows and walls painted in dark brown and green. Chapter 26. Luan's Retaliation. After Luan bought all the items that could be used in the pill forging, he paid a total of 15,000 with his credit card and left the store with Ingrid and Christina. I still haven't got the last ingredient needed to create the pill for Mom and Catherine. Luan closed his eyes when thinking about the accident that he, Catherine, and his mother suffered when he was 13 years old. Mara, Luan's mother, went to pick him and his sister Catherine up at school, but suddenly, a car left the other lane and came towards them. Luan remembers very well that day he was fighting with his sister, but at the time of the accident, she disregarded everything, and took off her seat belt and covered him with her small body. In that accident, Mara, Luan's mother, broke the bones of her left arm and leg. Because of this, she had to put a metal prosthesis in place of the broken bone. Katharina was a little better since she only broke her left arm, but she also had to put prosthesis on the arm bone. For Luan to now be able to help his mother and sister, he needed to make a bone reconstruction pill. It was not an easy pill to make. It needed to be in the refining chi stage, as it needed a lot of chi energy to be able to refine the pill. In addition, he needed bone marrow from an animal or person that was 10 times more powerful than an ordinary human. It was not that it was impossible to achieve this at the present time, but it was also not easy. When they returned to the suite, it was already close to 7 p.m. Luan was using his laptop at the time. Christina, who passed him and saw at a glance what he was doing, asked, Luan, why do you have the photos of all the people of the Zing clan open on the laptop screen? Luan replied without turning around, I am creating a program that identifies them whenever they come near us or Ingrid's family, or the airport. I know they won't be standing around doing nothing for long, so I need to pay attention to their movements. Why the airport? Christina asked, confused. Because they may want to go after my family, Luan replied in a cold tone. He wouldn't let them do anything bad to his sister and mother. I understand. Sorry for causing so many problems. Christina lowered her head as she spoke. Don't think about it too much. Luan turned, looking at her. It's not like I didn't know it could happen when I decided to help you. Christina nodded and left the living room, heading towards the kitchen to see if Ingrid needed help. Even if it is not the best option, if they dare to get in my way, I will remove all their bone marrow. Luan said in his mind. Almost half an hour later, Luan finished creating the program that connected all the cameras in the state of Santa Catarina. Whenever someone from the Zing clan walked the streets, the cameras followed them. After that, he also created an application that connected to the program he created and installed it on his iPhone 3. Asterisk. S. O. Jose, Praia Comprida. It was almost 2400 when a black car was approaching the home of Amanda, Ingrid's mother. Trim. Asterisk. Luan, who was sleeping, was awakened by the noise of the cell phone. Appearing on the screen, a warning came that two men from the Xing clan were approaching Amanda's house. Luan got up and changed his clothes very quickly and left the Dallas hotel at high speed. Luan's current speed was about 500 kilometers per hour. The distance from the Dallas hotel to Amanda and Ingrid's house was 20 kilometers. We are almost there. We just need to kidnap his girlfriend's mother and go, said Kenner, a tall man with blonde hair. I just don't understand why I had to go along, after all. Isn't she just a weak woman? Bernardo complained. He was a medium-height man with light brown hair. Quiet. It was the order of the clan patriarch. Or are you going to tell me that you dare to say that in front of him? Kenner disdained. I know that, but I had an appointment with my creamy girlfriend, but now I'm stuck in a car with a male. Bernardo grunted. We're here. Kenner, who was driving, stopped the car in front of a yellow house. When they got out of the car and were about to invade the house, a young man running very fast stopped in front of them, leaving Bernardo and Kenner amazed. Hey, your guy's clan is very brave, yes. The white-haired young man said with a cold chuckle that sent shivers down Bernardo and Kenner's spines. How did he know that we were coming? And how can he be so fast? Kenner, the blonde-haired man, was startled. I don't know what you're talking about. Bernardo was no fool. He saw that they couldn't go against this man who ran even faster than a car, and tried to hide what they were doing. We only stopped the car because we heard a crash, and we think it's the car's tire. He kicked the tire and said, Bruno, the tire is good. Shall we go? Yes, yes. Kenner cooperated with Bernardo and wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. Do you think you're going to trick me with this cheap act? Luan shook his head and his intention to kill expanded. Spare me. I just did what the clan said. Kenner gave up the hoax when he saw that it didn't work and begged for his life. Bernardo, on the other hand, ran to get in the car, wanting to get out, leaving Kenner behind trying to escape. But as soon as he put his hand on the handle of the car and was about to open the door, he felt a hand hold his neck. Save me. Don't kill me. Crack. Asterisk. The sound of Bernardo's neck bones echoed. His disbelieving eyes remained open. Letting the body fall to the floor, Luan appeared in front of Kenner, who was trembling and had yellow liquid dripping from his pants, and without saying a word, Luan cut horizontally with his hand and Kenner's head rolled on the floor after leaving his neck. This all happened so fast that it hadn't even been 1 minute, and not wanting to stay and wait for people to go out on the street and see what was going on, Luan took both bodies and heads and put them in the trunk of the car and drove the car in the direction of the Xing clan's village. On the way, on a more deserted street, Luan used a technique that made the skin and flesh of Bernardo and Kenner's bodies disintegrate on the floor, leaving only the bones. The only things he didn't disintegrate were the heads because they had another objective. Although it was not exactly what Luan wanted, he would use the bone marrow from their bones to create pills to help his mother and sister. Later, he arrived in front of the village gate where the Xing clan was located and got out of the car and threw the heads up, skewering them as they came down on the village gate. Before leaving, Luan punctured the car's gas tank and set the vehicle on fire. Boom. Asterisk. A minute later, a strong explosion occurred, but Luan was already almost 10 kilometers away from the village of Clan Xing. As they deactivated the village's cameras, so as not to be watched again, they had to go in person to see what was going on. Once there, they couldn't help but be surprised to see two heads stuck in the village gate and a car a few meters away on fire. Bernardo. A girl in the crowd screamed hysterically. She was Claudia, Bernardo's girlfriend. Calm down. Don't make a fuss, or I'll kill you, said the patriarch of Clan Xing ominously. He then shouted, Quick, get those heads off of the gate. Don't let outsiders see this. Bernardo. The girl did not stop screaming when she saw them remove the head that was stuck in the gate. I told you to shut the fuck up. With flames around his hand, the patriarch of Clan Xing slapped the girl in the face and engulfed her in flames. Ah! The girl screamed in agony and pain, and it only took a few seconds for her to die. Damn it! Get this woman's body out of here, quick! Demanded the patriarch. Nobody dared to scream or make a noise. None of them wanted to be the next to burn. Very quickly, they removed the heads from the gate and the body of the woman who was burned alive. Despicable boy, I underestimated you. Good. Wait for me. It won't end like this. The patriarch of the Xing clan thought, full of cruelty in his eyes. Chapter 27. Increased Power. After Luan killed the two would-be kidnappers from the Xing clan and removed the bones from their bodies, he returned by car to the hotel suite with the bones in a black backpack. In his room, Luan studied the bones and realized that their maximum physical strength was 8 times stronger than an ordinary man. If I use it all together, I can still create the bone reconstruction pill, although I would also have to create a bone marrow cleansing pill. Luan calculated in order to better understand the bones he had in his hands. But to create this pill, I'm going to need to get to heaven and earth realm, chi refining stage. Luan went to the plants, fruits, even seedlings, and got ready to create pills. Although he was not yet able to create more complicated pills, he would still be able to create simpler pills. One of these pills was the Chi collection pill. As the energy of heaven and earth was more dense inside the training room, Luan went there with the ingredients. He had already bought a 30 centimeters cauldron for the purpose of creating pills, and now he would have the chance to use it. Since he would not be able to create fire for a long time, seeing as the reserve of Chi stored in his body was low, Luan used the flames generated from a gas stove. It was a one-burner stove, which was used a lot in camping. Luan knew it was not ideal, but he could not be too demanding at that moment. Although he would lose a little of the effect because of that, it was still better than being without. Besides, the pill that he was going to make, the cost of the items was not very expensive. Luan prepared everything, cutting all of the items and grinding those that needed to be ground. He then turned on the fire, and as he needed blood from a living being superior to an ordinary human, the stronger the blood the better, Luan sacrificed some of his own. Cutting his fingertip, he let some of his blood drip into the cauldron. Luan focused his attention on the cauldron, and after adding his blood in the cauldron, he poured in coconut oil and green tea, and little by little, he added other key items. Afterwards, he closed the lid. Luan's voice began to resonate through the room as he closed his eyes. His lips moved smoothly, making an indecipherable sound, filling the room. It was an impossible sound to understand or hear clearly. Seeming to synchronize with the incessant sound, the cauldron began to shudder. Multicolored lights began to spread all over the place, filling the air. The sound of the song continued to echo, making the room fill with bright lights. Poof. Asterisk. With the sound of the cauldron lid clacking, Luan opened his eyes and turned off the fire. Sweat dripped down his forehead. Alchemy was not an easy thing for him to do with his current level of chi. However, he smiled as he opened the lid of the cauldron and saw that at the bottom of the cauldron were 3 milky pills in the middle of the rest of the ashes of the ingredients that were not able to become pills. Taking the 3 pills, Luan sat down with his legs crossed and swallowed a pill. Upon doing so, he was amazed by the rich chi of the pill that spread throughout his body. On a scale of 1 to 10, Luan would say that the quality of this pill was a 5. Although not very high, it helped him to break the limit of his body. He measured his body's strength and was pleased that it managed to become 27 times stronger than an ordinary man. Unlike the standard training using a technique, the effect of the pill was different since it did not necessarily have a limit that could be digested and strengthened. In addition, Luan felt a strong desire to go to the bathroom. 1 hour later, Luan came out of the bathroom. He did what he had to do and took a shower. Wrapped in a towel, he went to his room to put on a new set of clothes. Afterward, he returned to the training room and swallowed the other 2 pills. With the second pill, although he got stronger, it was not enough to help him break the limit of his body. With the third pill, it only added a bit to his body's strength. I'm going to create some new pills tomorrow, Luan thought as he felt tired mentally. After putting everything away, he went to take another shower and then went to sleep. Asterisk. The next morning, Luan woke up in a good mood. Getting stronger by using the pills yesterday caused him to be closer to his goal. When he got out of bed, he did his morning routine and then went into the living room. Good morning, he said when he saw Ingred and Christina talking while sitting around the table. Good morning, Luan, Ingrid said with a smile. Good morning, Master, Christina said politely. Sitting on a chair next to the table, Luan took a piece of toast and buttered it. After chewing, he said, "You girls woke up early. It's already 7:30. You were the one who woke up late," Ingrid laughed. I see. Luan hadn't seen the time yet, so he assumed it was before 7 a.m. As soon as they finished eating, they all brushed their teeth and started training. Around 1400, Luan stopped meditating. He didn't see the girls in the room, which made him assume that they had finished training. He then went to his room and picked up the necessary items to create the collect chi pill. 1 hour after Luan started forging pills, he held 7 milky pills in his hand. He was lucky to have forged 4 of the pills at once. I believe that with these pills, I can break the limit of being 30 times stronger than an ordinary man. Sitting on the floor with his legs crossed in the lotus position, Luan ate the first pill. Gradually the chi inside the pill spread throughout his body. The first pill alone almost made him break the limit of 28 times stronger than an ordinary man. Luan took a deep breath, and swallowed another pill. Inside his body, a whirlwind of chi formed and spread the chi energy to all the organs, skin, and bones in his body. Luan felt stronger and stronger, and that's when he broke the limit of 28 times stronger than an ordinary man. Opening his eyes, he let out a long hot breath. He felt his whole body heat up. He knew that this way of strengthening himself was not the best and was also shortening the lifespan of the training room's formation. However, his instincts said he needed to be strong soon. He felt urgency from the Xing clan. Although he could now go against most of them, when he arrived in front of the village gate of Clan Xing, he felt the presence of someone who was very close to the third order, someone with strength 40 times stronger than the average man. Not wanting to take the risk, Luan wanted to get stronger even faster. Then, he could create a new formation when he returned to Juror Internacional. Clearing his mind, Luan swallowed the next pill, and then he swallowed a fourth pill, leaving only 3. The power grew within him. Luan saw the limit of his strength increase to 29 times. Just as he calculated, he hoped that the final 3 pills would help him to be 30 times stronger than an ordinary man. After swallowing the last pill, a vortex formed on top of Luan's head, and the same happened inside his own body, strengthening every cell in his body. Luan then broke the limit of the human body, being now 30 times stronger than an ordinary man. Now I can use the technique. Negative white dragon transformation. Although he wanted to do this now, he needed to use a set of body movements to clean up the impurities from the pills left in his body. Although it was not able to clean 100%, it would be at least 50%. It was almost 6 p.m. and Luan had already used his body technique and had also meditated. In his body, a lot of impurity remained and a strong desire to defecate was present. Almost 1 hour later, Luan left the bathroom feeling refreshed. He saw himself in the mirror and noticed that he had become even more handsome. He put on a new set of clothes and went to the training room. When he returned to the training room, he sat on the floor, and prepared to use the technique, negative white dragon transformation. Chapter 28. Pseudo-Core. That night, Luan was sitting alone in the training room, feeling the energy of heaven and earth. He knew it wouldn't be so quick for him to break out of his cultivation and enter the chi refining stage, but that didn't mean it was useless to meditate using the negative white dragon transformation technique. All the chi that Luan pulled into himself was almost automatically used to strengthen his body, but he was unable to form a complete circle from it in the center of his body, which was 2 centimeters below his navel. To successfully enter the chi refining stage, he needed to make a full circle, which was when he would enter the pseudo-core stage, which is equivalent to level 1 of the chi refining stage. Refining chi had 9 levels and went from 1 to 9. Luan's eyes narrowed as he manipulated the energy chi with special attention to the center of his body, trying to form a circle. At this point, the image of a very small white dragon took shape and started trying to form itself into a circle at Luan's command. Gradually becoming more powerful, the little white dragon spun around the center of Luan's body, trying to create a circle, but whenever it reached halfway, it was forced to return to the beginning, and the chi of heaven and earth was sucked in by Luan's body. After many attempts, Luan managed to increase his strength a little and almost created a half circle but was unable to break through to the chi refining stage. After having dinner with Ingred and Christina, Luan went to his room and slept when he saw that there was no strange movement from the Xing clan. Asterisk. The following morning, Luan did not start training with the body technique, but with the negative transformation white dragon technique. This time, he felt the chi of heaven and earth more easily. Gradually, the little white dragon began to create a line of chi in order to form a circle. Time passed quickly. It was already close to noon when a vortex formed at the top of Luan's head and was sucked into his body, going towards the center of his body. Once he gathered chi in the center of his body, the little white dragon, with great effort, finished forming a circle. Boom. Asterisk. Luan could only hear a sound inside him that sounded like a dragon's roar. His whole body cracked violently and suddenly darkened fresh blood was shot from his mouth. At that time the vast energy had grown and broken the barriers, flooding Luan's body with chi. Luan was meticulously controlling the flow of energy, because after a disruption, using chi on his pseudo-core could cause injuries if not done carefully. Just by breaking through and successfully entering level 1 of the chi refining stage, Luan became almost 40 times stronger than an ordinary man when using the pseudo-core chi. Luan's oppressive aura made Christina and Ingrid, who were in the training room, look at him in amazement. They were forced to stop meditating and move away from him so that they would not be affected. Although they were concerned that he had vomited blood, seeing that the color of the blood was dark, almost the same color as the impurity, they decided to wait. Half an hour later, Luan opened his eyes and blew out a breath of hot air. His body was hot, almost burning. He urgently needed to take a cold shower. Luan, how are you? Ingrid, who saw him open his eyes, asked with concern. I'm fine, just, I'll explain later. I need to take a shower first, Luan told her and left. He didn't have time to explain, since he wanted to bathe before and the explanation was a little long. Despite their lack of understanding, Ingrid and Christina waited for him in the living room, patiently. In the bathroom, Luan started taking a shower shortly after he vomited dark blood again. His skin tone turned red, but he gradually recovered and became full of vitality. Within his body, the pseudo-core was in constant rotation. If Luan wanted to use qi, he would only need to direct the qi to the desired location. If his meridians were clean and the core was connected to the fully formed one, it would be even easier and faster for him to control qi. In the palm of his hand, Luan created a small ball of flames. Even with the water falling on his hand, it was not able to put out the flames. Of course, the amount of water coming out of the shower was not very large, so it was easy for him to keep the flame burning under the shower. Making the fireball disappear, the circle on his body, which lost 1% of qi, continued to spin, refining the qi of heaven and earth, recuperating the lost qi. While Luan bathed, Christina told Ingrid everything that happened to her and talked about the Xing clan. From beginning to end, Ingrid didn't say a word, but she felt like crying as she hugged Christina, which took Christina by surprise. I believe Luan will. Ingrid didn't even need to complete her statement for Christina to understand what she meant, that Luan would turn the Xing clan into a river of blood. It's not that I care, but I believe that like me, there are people in the Xing clan who don't know about it. Christina said what she thought. I don't think they are all guilty. Do not worry. Luan entered the room. I don't intend to drag innocent people into this. Furthermore, if there is killing, it will only be those that the police have difficulty dealing with, the main leaders of the Xing clan. I am almost ready to deal with them. When Luan entered the room, Ingrid looked at him, her breathing quickened uncontrollably. If Luan was handsome before, he was now even more handsome and had a seductive and dominant aura emanating from him. This is good. Christina blinked her innocent eyes and said, It seems, Master, you have become more handsome. This is because I have had some advances in cultivating and it has helped to nourish my skin, making it more handsome, Luan explained. I understand. Will I also be more beautiful if I continue to strengthen myself? Christina, who always felt ugly, was pleased with the idea of becoming more beautiful. Yes, of course. Luan gave a direct answer. Although he didn't say much, it was almost enough to make Christina jump with joy and want to dedicate herself even more to training. After all, even though she was young, she wanted to be beautiful. Luan, are you going out? Ingrid asked him, seeing that the clothes Luan had on were different from the clothes he usually wore at home, wearing a white t-shirt, jeans, and black sneakers. Yes, I will try to find medicinal herbs to create pills, Luan replied. I see. Good luck, Ingrid said, smiling with slightly pink cheeks. Thanks, Luan smiled. Luan walked along beaches and mountains until the day got dark. Only when it was close to 1900 at night did he decide to return. Although not a lot, I got medicinal herbs that were missing for some pills, Luan told himself. There were many herbs that, although easy to find, were not treated as valuable today, and these were basically the things that Luan found. However, unfortunately, he couldn't find what he wanted most, which was at least 10-year-old ginseng herb. Will it be that I am going to have to cultivate on my own and grow old with those techniques? Luan needed this ginseng herb to be able to create the water pill. Depending on the quality of this pill, it could clean up 40% of the impurity of a person's body. Of course, the stronger the person, the more difficult it was to clean the impurity. Of course, with Luan's current strength, he believed that at most he would be able to create a mid-grade water pill. Pills were separated by 6 degrees. Low, mid, high, superior, earth, and heaven. Low, 90% impurities. Mid, 80% impurities. High, 60% impurities. Superior, 30% impurities. Earth, 10% impurities. Heaven, 0% impurities. Arriving at the suite, Luan stored what he was able to find and started training with body technique. After finishing training, Luan had dinner with Ingrid and Christina and returned to the training room to create chi collection pills. The more pills he had and the purer they were, the better. Those that came out with low quality, he intended to sell on the website he was creating. Luan's goal was to create pills of superior grade or even earth. If he manages to do that, it would be even easier to help his mother and sister get stronger, even Ingrid and Christina for that matter. Chapter 29. Immortality. Luan created 19 chi collection pills. 10 low pills, 5 mid pills, 3 high pills, and 1 superior pill. It was close to midnight when he finished creating these pills. Luan took a shower and after putting on pajamas, he went to sleep. Asterisk. Morning of March 3, 2010. It had been 17 days since Luan and Ingrid met and stayed in the suite at the Dallas hotel. Before, Luan intended to stay in the suite for 30 days and then return to Juror International. However, things had not quite gone as planned. The formation he created with Ingrid's help would break up in a few days, and now that he had managed to enter heaven and earth realm, chi refining stage, Luan could create pills more easily, thus, he had no more need to spend so many days in this place. However, he couldn't just go back to Juror International. He still needed to deal with the Xing clan before he left. If he left things as they were, it was possible that they would try to kidnap Ingrid's mother again. Unlike the previous day, Luan started training with a body technique, doing all 48 movements quickly and accurately and then meditating while performing the sutra of the technique, divine spiritual body. While meditating, Luan felt that he was very close to breaking the limit of his body again. But, he knew it was not good to push himself too hard and stopped meditating around 2 p.m. Ingrid and Christina had already finished training. Christina, who had joined just a few days ago, managed to become 3 times stronger than an ordinary man. After having lunch and showering, Luan said, "Ingrid, Christina, I have a pill that will help you to become stronger." In a bottle, there were 2 milky pills each the size of a glass ball. Luan placed the bottle on the table and said, "You each can have a pill, and when swallowing, I recommend that you use the sutra of your body technique. This will facilitate the digestion process and increase the efficiency of the pill." The 2 pills Luan gave Ingrid and Christina were high-quality chi collection pills. Although they had 60% impurities, they were still quite useful. Luan intended to create new water pills, therefore, he didn't have to worry about the impurities that were inside the pill, since he himself knew how to create a pill that removed the impurity. The important thing now was to get stronger. "Thank you, Luan." The 2 girls were moved. Without wasting time, they went to the training room and swallowed the pills and started meditating. Luan did not stay at the hotel. He left when he saw that the girls started training. He wanted to see if the herb store had received new stocks, and he also wanted to try his hand at finding rare medicinal herbs in isolated places. As his strength increased, the speed also increased. Luan managed to reach 600 kilometers per hour running. This was without using chi. If he used chi, he could reach an incredible 800 kilometers per hour. This only reinforced the security measures that he had in place to be able to protect Christina and the rest in case the Xing clan tried to do something. Of course, Luan was not running through the city at this speed right now. He wouldn't do it for no reason, and had he done that, it would have looked like Flash was running through the streets of S. Oh Jose. The next day it would have invariably appeared on various television news. The day he ran to save Ingrid's mother, it was a different situation. It was at night, and the cameras in 2010 were not so good that they could get images of him running at 500 kilometers an hour. Also, most people who might have seen him that time probably thought they were hallucinating to see something run by that fast. At the store which sold medicinal herbs, the attendant recognized Luan and said with a professional smile, "Mr. Luan, you are back. We already have what you ordered last time. It arrived at the store just an hour ago." Luan was slightly surprised at how quickly they managed to find what he had requested before. "Oh, this is good. I will want to take this and also." Luan listed the items he wanted to buy. Before Luan left the store, he worked out with the staff that Ingrid would accept the items at the hotel when the delivery dropped the items off. Luan did not return to the hotel. He was still hoping to find useful ways to create pills. Strolling through the streets of S. Oh Jose, Luan arrived in front of a street that went out towards the sea. On the beach, Luan saw that there was a man renting boats. Approaching, Luan asked the man wearing a dark green fisherman's clothes, "Sir, I want To rent a boat of yours. How much does it cost? The man looked Luan up and down and saw that he looked like a young man with money and was not just another curious person. Rowing boat is 300 Brazilian reals per day. Larger motorized boat is 1,000 Brazilian reals per day, he replied. I would like to rent the motorboat, please, said Luan. Okay. Come with me to my store. He led the way to a small, white storefront and started asking questions, filling out a rental paper, and also asking for a photo ID. After finishing filling in the required paperwork, he stated, it is already 3 p.m., so I will charge you part-time, which is $500. If you stay more than 12 hours with the boat, you will have to pay the other $500, okay. Seeing Luan nod, he said, do you want to pay with cash or by card? By card, Luan replied and passed his credit card to the man who rented the boats. PIN number, please, stated the man. Okay. Luan typed in his PIN and hit confirm. After handing back Luan's credit card, the man guided Luan to the boat. On the way, he said many things like the deadline for delivering the boat and the risk he would take if he went too far, and gave Luan a detailed map of the sea and nearby islands. Asterisk. In the open sea, Luan rowed the boat at 30 kilometers per hour. He mainly chose to go to more distant places. Standing alone on a boat in the open sea reminded him of the times in his previous life when he hunted for treasure in the sea with his sailboat. At that time, Luan had achieved many amazing things, and it was also because of the treasures he had acquired, he strengthened himself quickly. The sea was an unpredictable place, and one often depended on luck to find something of value, but for Luan, who had very good senses, the unpredictability turned out to be an advantage. Not far away, Luan saw two islands, one more or less large and the other small. The largest was at most the size of a football stadium. Luan swerved and instead kept going towards the more open sea. Until now, he hadn't felt any strange energy inside the sea. While only listening to the sound of the sea and the wind blowing, Luan began to remember his past life. For almost 1,000 years he lived in the path of immortality. He lost many people he had cared for. Friends, family, his mother, his sister. In an instant, Luan had a thought about whether he would pursue immortality this time around. It didn't matter if it was 100 years, 1,000 years, or 10,000 years, time was valuable. Although the excitement of life comes from the process and not from the results, if he could possess immortality and have an unlimited life, would he not be able to experience more excitement in his life? If there were such a possibility, he would definitely seek immortality. Furthermore, he would not seek only immortality for himself. He would also help the person he loves so that they could be together forever. Also, for his mother and sister, he would definitely help them to achieve immortality. Luan was lost in the middle of his tide of thoughts until he suddenly felt a strange energy coming from the bottom of the sea. Chapter 30. Energy Crystal. After anchoring the boat, Luan left his cell phone and wallet inside the boat and dived into the water. As he swam deeper, he felt the strange energy growing stronger. Is this coming from an energy crystal? The closer Luan got, the more he was sure it was an energy crystal. Energy crystals were very useful for cultivators, as they were rich in energy from heaven and earth and, as the name would suggest, made up of very pure energy. Asterisk. At the same time, at the Majestic Palace Hotel. Haven't you found her yet? Wagner Hamibo was furious. Damn shish $T. How can they not find her after so long? Are you telling me that the girl I slept with was not Ingred, the girl that Luan is interested in, but her sister, Monica? Yes, young master, a man in a black suit said respectfully. As we tried to find the girl, we ended up discovering that she was actually Ingrid's older sister. F#CK, I want her here. Find her for me, Wagner Hamibo said aggressively, kicking a table. Young master, should we kill her? The man asked, cautiously. Huh, kill her. Are you #C King crazy? I want to marry her. I mean, I want to make her my lover. She's too good to die. Wagner Hamibo said a little confused. He didn't understand why he had such a strong feeling for this girl that he only had sex with once. Asterisk. Luan reached the bottom of the sea and saw the energy crystal shining. The size of the crystal was the size of a pineapple, even the shape was similar. Luan took the crystal with his hand and the crystal shone brightly because whenever an energy crystal would come into contact with a very strong energy source, it would stay active. Luan roughly assumed that this crystal had existed here for at least 1,000 years. Luan swam holding the energy crystal, heading towards where the boat was anchored. As he had not touched the anchor to the bottom of the sea, the boat ended up drifting a little, but it did not go very far, and soon Luan reached the boat. Placing the crystal on the deck, Luan climbed up into the boat. Using his chi to dry off, Luan thought, I'm just going to take another look. He was already satisfied to find this energy crystal, since if a formation was created using this, it would be even better than the formation he had made back at the hotel. In addition, because it was an energy crystal that was about 1,000 years old, even if it ran out of energy, the crystal supplied itself with energy from heaven and earth. Another thing he could do with this energy crystal was to create weapons of the fourth order. However, Luan had no such intention, and neither did he have the other materials necessary to create a weapon of the fourth order. 2 hours later. Unfortunately, I didn't find anything else, but luckily I found this energy crystal, Luan murmured and decided to return to shore. Seeing that there was no one close, instead of starting the engine, Luan took a paddle from the boat in case of emergency and started to row. The boat's speed reached almost 100 kilometers per hour with Luan rowing using only some of his strength. He ended up paddling 4 times faster than the maximum speed of the motorboat. When Luan began to see the 2 islands he had seen before, he stopped rowing and started the boat's engine and headed towards where he had rented the boat. Mr. Luan, you came back early. The man who rented the motorboat smiled warmly when he saw Luan reach the shore. Yes, Luan replied with a wave. Taking the crystal from the motorboat, Luan left. Logically, in order not to draw unnecessary attention, he did not use his chi when handling it, or else the energy crystal would shine even more than a 60-volt lamp. Quote. The man looked strangely at what Luan was carrying, but said nothing. He thought it was better not to ask, and so he remained silent while watching Luan walk away. When Luan was out of sight, the man murmured, "What a strange boy." Asterisk. Welcome back, Mr. Luan Dimas. As soon as she saw Luan come in through the entrance door, Samantha immediately greeted him with a welcoming smile. She felt calmer now. When she spoke to Ingrid earlier, she discovered that Christina was Luan's cousin. I'm back. Luan greeted her and headed for the elevator. Arriving at suite 916, Luan passed the card and the door was opened. Luan. Welcome. Ingrid, who heard the sound of the door opening, received Luan with a smile. I'm back. Luan returned the smile. Are you hungry? Ingrid asked. Christina and I made meat soup. Yes, I am, thanks. I'll just put this here first and take a shower. As soon as he said that, Luan walked into his room and placed the crystal in his closet. Minutes later, Luan returned after taking a shower and putting on a more casual outfit, being silk shorts and a black short-sleeved shirt. Upon arriving at the kitchen, Luan helped himself to a plate of soup. While Luan ate, Ingrid and Christina stayed in the living room. Having finished eating the soup, Luan washed the dishes he used and went into the living room. Sitting on the couch next to Ingrid and Christina, Luan said, on the 5th of this month, I'm going back to Juror International. Will you girls come with me? Yes, Christina responded immediately. Yes, but my mother. Ingrid was concerned that the Xing clan would end up doing something bad to her mother. I understand your concern, but you don't have to think too much about it. I wouldn't ask you to come before first solving the problem with the Xing clan, Luan said, reassuring her. That's nice. In that case, I'd be willing to go with you, Ingrid said. At the time Luan entered the chi refining stage, he was already confident he could get rid of the Xing clan, but that was only with 50% certainty. Now that he had found an energy crystal, he decided to use all of the formation and create as many pills as possible and increase his physical strength to 31 or 32 times stronger than an ordinary man. If he did this, the chances of him succeeding in getting rid of the Xing clan were about 80%. While the 2 girls went to sleep, Luan went to the training room and started creating chi collection pills. Because it was dependent on the flames created from his chi and them now being pure flames, the chances of creating superior quality pills had increased. As for creating any heaven and earth quality pills, Luan did not have so much hope with the inferior materials available to him. With the cauldron in front of him, Luan, who was sitting on the floor, used his flames while placing the ingredients to create the chi collection pill. Unlike artificially created flames, Luan could create flames inside the oven and burn the impurities of medicinal herbs more proficiently. It was almost 5 a.m. when Luan finished using all the medicinal herbs, creating a total of 50 pills, 35 chi collection pills and 15 water pills. Of them, 10 were superior chi collection pills and 5 were superior water pills. Because of the amount of energy he expended using the formation, it weakened the formation by a lot and it would probably last a maximum of 2 more days. Luan took a superior water pill and swallowed it. In his body, the pill started to purify the residual impurities he had. Because the pill had such a potent effect and the fact that Luan had digested poorer quality pills before, Luan felt compelled to go to the bathroom.